We'll call this meeting of the City Council, the City of Oak Hill to order for November 8th, 2021 at 6:30. And with the clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Daniel E. Wright,
Here.
Council at Large Oxley,
Here.
Councilors from Ward 1, Diana Janey. Here. David Perry,
Here.
Krista Hodges.
Here.
Councilors from Ward 2, Steve Hazlett,
Here.
Charles Smallwood Jr.,
Here.
Benitez Jackson.
Here. Appears to be a quorum. We will now go to the invocation. It was to be led by the pastor Charles Schmuck of the Oak Hill Gospel Tabernacle, but I don't believe Reverend Schmuck is here. So I've asked as a backup that Councilwoman Janey do it, please. And be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Smallwood.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to come together here this evening to conduct city business. Lead and guide and direct us in all your ways and be with us as we go over all the things that we need to do here tonight. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion regarding the reading of and approval of the minutes?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to. We now move to the treasurer's report. Is there a motion regarding the treasurer's report?
I'll make a motion that we accept the treasurer's report.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Properly moved and seconded. We accept the treasurer's report as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to, 7-0. Which now moves, Madam Clerk, any correspondence to the city?
No, Mayor.
Citizens' comments. Mr. Hannibus, is there a sign in?
Yeah, there is.
Okay. Thank you, thank you. Sir? Thank you. Becky Sullivan from the Chamber of Commerce.
Hello. How are
Hello.
y'all? I'm here. I see Gabe's here, but I brought a comprehensive plan form for everybody to fill out. So if you're a Fayette County resident, you should get involved and fill those out. We have them at our office, and I know you all have them here at the city office. I'm here on behalf of the New River Gorge CBB. I see that on the agenda, you're discussing the Southern West Virginia tax a little bit later in the agenda items. So I just wanted to explain that. Excuse me, again. The tax partnership with Visit Southern West Virginia, it's a matching marketing dollars agreement. So the city has paid anywhere, and I don't know if my numbers are perfect, but I averaged, the city has paid anywhere from about $7,000 to $16,000 per year to this matching dollars agreement. The New River Gorge CBB matches the amount and pays a total of between $14,000 to $32,000 per year for the city's lodging properties to be included in Visit Southern West Virginia's marketing budget. And their budget is about 3 times the size of the New River Gorge CBBs because they are a regional CBB. So they represent 9 counties and they have different participating tax entities in their regional CBB. So what that does is it gives the city of Oak Hill lodging properties a wider audience for that marketing buy-in. The total that I averaged was between $14,000 to $32,000, which means that the city of Oak Hill pays half of that. And so the New River Gorge CBB matches to do the buy-in total for Visit Southern West Virginia. So I'm going to stick around. I may not be here for the whole meeting, but if I'm not available here in person, I will be available via Zoom for any further questions.
We have a question there from Councilman Perry.
Okay.
Ms. Sullivan, the total amount that the city commits is what? You said, I didn't, 7 and 16, and you said 14 to 20.
This is just the tax share part. This is in addition to the additional. So the city of Oak Hill pays 50% of the total hotel motel tax to the county CBB, which is the New River Gorge CBB.
Okay, which is how much? And I know that could vary, just,
It averages between.
I think we used to budget around 60,000. It's not quite that much.
The average that Becky told me was about 64,000 since
last 3 years.
2018.
Yeah, so I have a total, I mean, it's varied from about 47,000 to $98,000 over the last 3 years.
okay, but the
And that's
city,
the 50%.
okay, next, and I didn't quite understand, I'm the new guy here. The benefit to the city, or what does the city get out of that?
That is the requirement that is paid to the county CBB. So when I say those numbers, that's what you have to pay to the county CBB. That's the 50%.
Statutory,
Yes.
okay,
And then in addition to that, you pay 7.5% of your total so that we can match that and have an additional marketing budget for Visit Southern West Virginia's buy-in. And that total is about between $7,000 and $14,000.
now you're getting where I didn't understand.
Is that of the 50%? Of the 50%.
Okay, so that's your 50%.
Okay.
Out of your 50%. So 50% the city of Oak Hill keeps, and it's supposed to be spent on tourism.
Okay, so we pay
related.
7% out of that.
And then, yep.
And the 7.5% is statutory too, or
It's not.
optional?
It's optional. It's optional. So it gives you more bang for your buck because you are supposed to spend that other 50% on tourism related.
So 50% plus
activity.
that, whatever that would be.
So you pay to Visit Southern West Virginia 57.5% of the total hotel motel tax.
And what is the bang that you get?
The 7.5%.
No, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about
Like advertisement.
advertising.
Advertising. So Visit
What
Southern
type
West
of
Virginia.
advertising and where?
With Visit Southern West Virginia, they're a regional CBB. So they have about 3 times the marketing budget, which is about $600,000 to $700,000 a year that they spend on digital, print, advertising, visitor guides, brochure distribution, their website. They list all events for all partners.
You have answered my questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Can
Anybody
you
else?
tell me, what do other towns contribute to this in the
The
area?
Southern West Virginia CBB bylaws state that you have to have a 15% buy-in.
Every single?
Every county, yeah. So, for example, Greenbrier County, they are part of the Southern West Virginia Visitors Bureau. But the county does not pay the tax to Visit Southern West Virginia. So none of the lodging properties in the county are represented with Visit Southern West Virginia, only attractions, dining, shopping, and services. So since it's a buy-in with hotel motel tax money, the playing partners are the ones that pay the hotel motel tax money.
Thank you.
Sorry, I know it's really confusing,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Any other questions from council? Thank you, Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you.
Appreciate you showing up. Which now moves us to the second request to speak to council. And that comes from someone who should be no stranger to council since she was one of us for about a year. Of course, she decided to move on at the county level. And that is the county clerk of Fayette County, Michelle Holly, one of our own. Yes, it's great. And let me make note also, we have with us visiting from the town of Fayetteville, a Councilman Gabe Pena, who's on the front row up here, who serves on council in Fayetteville. All right, Madam Clerk, enlighten us.
Yes, well, I just thought when into Becky's there, I will move from one confusing topic to another.
Another.
Redistricting, which happens after the census each 10 years. And our state legislators have chosen to cut Oak Hill into some interesting shapes with our different districts. So I'm going to try to keep this a little bit short and kind of explain how these districts are going to affect the city of Oak Hill in particular. So if you live in the city of Oak Hill, you have the chance of voting for any three of the delegate districts, the 45th, the 50th, or the 51st, depending on where you live. The 45th delegate district, which follows down into Raleigh County as well, takes in what is most of current precinct 13, which is Collinwood and parts of Scarborough. Then if you go towards the northern end, then most people will vote in the 50th delegate district. But then if you go to the northern end of the city, the people who live in the Pine Knoll apartments will vote in the 51st delegate district. They cut that little piece there in between 19 and Lot Galley Road into that district. So what that means is Oak Hill is gaining 3 precincts out of this new redistricting deal. We have to redraw our precincts because everyone in a precinct has to vote on the same ballot style. So if you have to vote in the 9th senatorial district, which also cuts into Oak Hill, but you vote for the 51st delegate district, you have to have a ballot. You have to be in your own precinct as opposed to if you voted in the 50th delegate district. So as I mentioned, that one's going to be a new precinct. There's going to be a new precinct that runs along Gatewood Avenue and Terry Avenue because those people will vote in the 50th delegate district, but vote in the 10th senatorial district. And then there will be a new precinct on the western side of not exactly city limits. It's the outside of city limits part of old precinct 1, Summerly Road, out Lot Galley Road out that way. Because again, they will vote in the 50th delegate district, but in the 10th senatorial district. Unlike most of Oak Hill will vote in the 9th, the new 9th senatorial district. Yay, this has been fun. So that is really how, and then there's going to be some changes. Precinct 1 will now encompass what I've affectionately become to call our own Eastern Panhandle. That little piece of Wolf Creek Park that was annexed into the city of Oak Hill will now be part of Precinct 1 because they will need to vote with people down here. And there's some slight changes along Collinwood, Main Street, Collinwood, Acres, in that area where those district lines kind of did not quite follow the precinct lines in the city of Oak Hill. So those things will be changing. And we'll mention this point because I'll move on to a little different piece. These are all proposals at this point. They will have to be voted on by the county commission and to ordered into existence, essentially. We are having a public hearing on all of this Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. in council chambers. So the next piece, this really doesn't affect the city terribly so. The magisterial districts, which is how you elect your county commissioners, your board of education members, and your county executive committee members, those will be changing based on population because of the census. We have population shifts and doesn't shift all in the same places. Everyone doesn't leave in even numbers from even places. There are multiple proposals on that. In fact, there were 3 that were discussed at our last county commission meeting. There's now a 4th that I don't have full information on, but I know will be presented at the county commission meeting on Wednesday. And those, Oak Hill will remain in the plateau. There's really not a change there on any map that I've yet to see. But again, we haven't seen them all yet. But it will shift around mostly the Valley members and some of the people in New Haven. The first two proposals don't make big changes. One moves a northern precinct 58, which is Ramsey and Hyco, into the Valley. The second one would move Mount Hope into the Valley, but then move Gatewood Road, which is precinct 4, Gatewood all the way up through Kennard, would move that into the plateau with Oak Hill. The third proposal is more extensive and puts Oak Hill city limits and Fayetteville city limits in the same district. So they would be the plateau district, those two cities. And then the rest of the county is kind of split evenly between to get the right numbers. As I said, there is a fourth one that also puts Oak Hill and Fayetteville together as a district, and then shifts it more northwest or north south. So it would be the eastern half of the county would be New Haven, and the western half of the county would be the Valley. There are lots of changes involved in the elections. We're going from 3 ballot styles to 15 ballot styles in the primary. And you will, so just anticipate a lot of changes as far as that goes. Doesn't affect the municipal elections, of course, as much, other than we'll have to make sure in my office to make sure we know who's in city limits and who's not, so that we get them in the poll book. So if anybody has any questions about any of that.
I have a question, Madam
Yeah.
Clerk. If it goes with the third plan, does New Haven cease to have a member on the commission?
We did get our formal ruling from our prosecuting attorney this afternoon. Long story short, there would no longer be someone on the commission who currently lived in the New Haven district, correct? But the code and the case law seem to indicate that because that person was elected while she lived in the New Haven district, she would continue to be the New Haven representative until her term is up.
And then New Haven is disenfranchised of having anyone on commission.
It is, yes. Yes, no, again, these are proposals. I don't know which way the commission has decided to go with this. And as I said, I know as of late this afternoon, there is a fourth one that will be presented, and we could have others.
Do you think that's legal, that have 3 commissioners and 3 magisterial districts, but one has 2 members and one has 1, the other has 0?
That is something that if someone felt that they needed to litigate that would be someone's choice. Again, I don't have the answers to that. I just make sure you vote in the right place. That's my job.
I'm not sure where that is, but.
Yeah, well, I don't think you changed, Mayor, but
I stay where I am.
yeah, so several in this room did, so you might have a new polling place. Mr. Smallwood is one of them, so is Mr. Perry. They will both have new ballots, and so it'll be.
So Woods Avenue's all right?
As of right now, as of
Could change.
6:50 on,
I just want to make sure Woods Avenue's all right there.
Just the top part. of
Just the
it.
top part, not the
Michelle,
middle part.
Are these proposals on your website? On the
They
county's
are.
website?
they are up. Yes, so if you go to fayettecountry.wv.gov and you go to county clerk, there is an option there. It says new redistricting info. And you click on that, and then I've got a little blurb about it, and I've got all 3 of these. I have our precinct proposals listed, and I have all 3 of these magisterial district proposals listed as Google Earth files and as just JPEG pictures if you don't feel like downloading the program to your computer. But I'm hopeful to have the 4th one up at some point tomorrow. It's going to involve a little more tricky math. So, yes.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do any of the proposals have precincts that will only have city limits and no one from outside of city limits?
I mean, when I did the precinct proposal, my goal was to do as little changing as possible. So those places where I had to slice the piece off of precinct 9 to make this new precinct 7 because of how they would have to vote different, or precinct 8 gets cut into like 4 pieces. But I did not try to follow strictly Oak Hill city limits. I did
Okay.
not. That is something that we are supposed to consider because that could come up in the legislature again. That would force municipal elections onto the same ballots as county elections.
That's why I'm asking that
And if that
because,
does happen, then we would have to make sure that we couldn't, again, have someone in city limits and outside of city limits voting on, they'd have to be different.
Right.
So that is, and they are looking at that WVU GIS. Their team, they're doing some of the more technical work for me. They're supposed to be looking at some of that when they give me their precinct proposals. So they're supposed to also give me a proposal.
okay,
Mr. Perry?
Michelle, the first discussion you had no control over. That was legislative as far as single delegate districts
Correct.
and how we're divided.
Mhm.
And senatorial.
Right.
The second you recommend to the commission
Mhm.
and the commission approves.
Correct. Yes. It's their decision. They're the ones that have to approve or not approve something. Yes.
Okay, question. Is this supposed to be advertised for a specific period of time, such as 30 days or not? Or are you aware at this point?
Yes, it was. They shortened it to 14 days.
Who did?
The state legislature.
Okay.
So, and we had to do it in two different ways. Precincts had to be a class 2 legal ad that ran 2 consecutive weeks before the meeting. And that's been running in the Register Herald now. The Magisterial District code is very old. And so it just went short of us having to run somebody around on a horse yelling, there's going to be a meeting. We had to hang a sign on the front door of the courthouse and in a prominent place in each of the districts affected. So those were also put up in our 14-day period. So
Is there a drop dead date as to when this has to be approved?
the actual absolute by code drop dead date is not until January the 22nd, the last day of filing. Because my office will have a lot of work to do to make sure we get every voter changed in our voter registration system. I've asked the commission for us to have all this finalized by at least December 10th, so that we have enough time to go in, because it'll be we will be looking at a map and I will say, all right, 2256 Gatewood Road goes into precinct 4, 2226 goes here. I mean, it won't have to be that for all of them, but there'll be, the way these lines crisscross, there will be some of that it'll be that detailed work. So it'll just take a while.
Conceivably, the mayor said a particular district could be disenfranchised, correct?
True.
2 of the plans, Plan 3 and possibly 4,
Mhm.
would put the Board of Education, Mr. Ray and what's her name? Tanner against each other, correct?
Correct.
Do you know about the 4th yet?
The 4th would,
Not to put you on the spot.
right, yeah, no, it would pull, and in fact, that 4th one would pull all of city limits of Fayetteville and Oak Hill together.
Which would pit them against each other.
Correct. And it pulls, there's pulling more pieces of Fayetteville into that 4th one that could affect some races.
Conceivably, proposal 2
Mhm.
makes the least change, correct?
Yes.
And the last question, if you feel comfortable answering. Proposal 1 came from you.
Yes.
Proposal 2 came from you.
Yes.
Proposal 3 was from the commission, correct?
It was a request, yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Where is proposal 4 coming from? Are you at liberty to say at this point?
The same, it was a request that we look at.
From
to
the
see-
commission.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any more
Thanks.
questions of the clerk? Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
If you
Thanks.
make it through this, you should get a nice raise.
Yeah.
This
Well,
this convoluted district stuff.
Or at least really, I mean, that
That
was an endorsement. That was not an.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you for your time.
Mhm. I'm sure we're all enlightened now exactly what's going to happen. All right, all right.
Okay.
I like this.
We have some guests that are attending by Zoom, and Mr. Wilshire, would you like to make a public comment? Okay, Mr. Love, I see you are attending, and you're actually here to speak on an agenda item. So we'll recognize you in a few moments. And we also have the Sheriff of Fed County. And Sheriff, would you like to make a public comment, sir?
No, sir, manager. Just I'm watching and trying to figure out what's going on with the districts.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sheriff. And hey, I appreciate your assistance this month. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the note, and I passed it on to the deputy and to the secretaries too.
Great. And we have someone attending by phone. The last four digits are 1220. Whoever's attending by phone, would you like to make a public comment? Okay, Mayor, I believe that's
Hello. The number ending 1220, that's me, Mr. Love. I'm also connected through mobile
Oh,
phone
okay.
for a better
Okay.
reception.
okay. We'll get you in a moment. Thank you.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now moves us into department head reports. Mr. Chief of Police, Mr. Wisman.
All right, for the month of October, the Oak Hill Police Department answered 411 calls for service. Of those, 351 were general service, 10 felonies, 30 misdemeanors, 8 incidents, and worked a total of 12 accidents. Citations issued 247, warnings were 77, parking issued 3, traveled a total of 20,404 miles patrolling the city, used 1,600 gallons of fuel, made 44 total arrests, 36 of those were misdemeanors and 8 were felonies. Note on the bottom, the radar signs, which have been ordered for 2 months now, are supposed to be delivered next week.
Excellent.
Any questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you
Chief,
all.
I have two,
Okay.
please. Number one, it was brought to my attention by one of your officers that may be a good idea that hopefully you would consider and expeditiously implement, and that's arraignments. It's my understanding presently you guys have to go to the Southern Regional Jail, bring a person back to Oak Hill, and the arraignment occurs with a secretary or someone, and then they have to take them back over there. Is that correct?
We do. That has been the system for years. We are right now under contract with a new court system, a computer program
Right.
system, software system that will enable us to do that. The magistrate court has been doing that for several years now. And this new system, it's called Encode Court System, will accommodate all that.
Do you have a time schedule or does Mr. Bragg have a timetable as when that?
It's under contract. It could take up to 9 to 12 months because that is very, that's a lot involved in that. And along with that, we will have to, of course, correspond with the jail, regional jail authority to get permission to do
Right,
that.
right.
But that whole system, there is a lot of variables in that, not just court. It has to talk to every other system that we have operating down there. And that's pretty intensive and it's fairly expensive.
So I commend you for moving ahead with that.
Well, that's along with the help of the city manager and Ms. Johnson and Tyler Bragg.
I commend those people. Who would you contact or who needs to be contacted maybe to shorten the 9 months to something else? Or who you work with or through? The
I
Supreme
don't
Court?
know that, I think it's all going to hinge. Some other systems have to be changed also, or we're changing some other systems. Our records management system, which keeps a record of every report that we take, every file that we have, it is also getting changed. That works in conjunction with the 911 center, and all those things have to correspond. I don't think getting permission from the regional jail authority to do it is going to be any major hurdle at all. It'll just probably be a couple phone calls and a couple clicks of the button when the system is available. The biggest thing is the software company getting our information put into, it all has to transfer over. It has to, Tyler can explain it better than me because he's much more up on software and computer systems than I am, but it is major.
But you endorse this?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Respect that. Appreciate it. Tyler, you have anything to add in terms of timetable?
I'm not sharing my podium with you.
I'll share my mic with you.
Not really much to add. The chief really hit about all the points. We're at the mercy of the software company that has the software we're going to be using. Mr. Hannibas has yanked their chain several times now, trying to get that time frame shortened up. And they say we're going to be 9 to 12 months regardless. It's a whole package deal, implementation, and we're not the only ones. They're actually working with the city of Beckley right now, implementing the same system. We checked with them and they said they were in the same boat. It was 9 to 12 months, nothing they could do about it.
Is there any way this could be done virtually until that's done?
I mean, we could certainly look into some sort of an interim system. I
Okay.
don't know what the feasibility of that is, right off the top of my head, but I suppose it'd be possible to see how the magistrate court does it.
The magistrate court uses the not equipment, what is it? The software that you're talking about.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, like we do this, is there any way you could Zoom it or virtually do it?
There may be some security issues with that. I mean, there'd be a lot of points to look at to try to implement. We can look into it
Would
and
you
see if
please?
there's something that we can
Would you please?
try to implement in the
Because I
interim.
think it's a great idea. And I think it's a cost saver.
I'll add to
and a
that.
time saver.
By going strictly with the system that Magistrate Court uses. We looked into that, I think, last year, and that was about somewhere around $10,000. Again, we're spending, or the city is spending, I don't know the exact figure on it, but it's pretty up there.
You're talking about the software.
The software that we're
That you're looking at
purchasing
now.
that will do this for us, it's built into that software system. I don't think at the time to save a couple, 6
Months.
or 8 months, potentially, that, I don't know that would be a very wise investment, but we can check into it and see if there's something cheaper.
Right. Well, with what we're doing here now is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And if you look into it, but again, I think it's the way to go. And I think, that speaks well of your officers, that they're looking to be more efficient as well.
So
So
it gets tiresome just shuttling around prisoners half
What's
the
that?
day.
Oh,
It gets
yeah,
tiresome for them
yeah.
and takes away from other things they could be doing just by shuttling prisoners around.
And the next thing that I would like to bring up, and I understand you're already on this somewhat, and I commend you again for
I
that.
try to stay on everything.
Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But I would like to see, for the safety of the officers and in terms of accountability, EOL or GPS systems in the cars. And I understand you're already investigating that from the source I had.
We've had those for 7 or 8 years.
So it's already there,
Yes, sir.
which means the 911 center can pinpoint.
No, sir.
Okay, we're talking
That's
to,
part of the grand package of things we're going to.
okay,
The 911 center cannot track my officers. By going to a new records management system, having the hardware in the cruisers, and again, Tyler can explain this a lot better than me. I'll probably confuse you.
I couldn't understand Tyler. So you're
Okay. Well,
You're on my.
You're on
pay
my
grade.
level then.
You're on my. pay
Uh,
grade.
But we have had GPS tracking in all the cruisers for maybe 10 years, maybe 12 years, probably since I became chief.
Which means what now? That's what you
That I
presently.
have a record of that vehicle 24/7.
Can you take your phone and identify where they are
Yes, sir.
with this present system?
Yes, sir.
But the new system,
The
And
new
the one I'm
system
talking
will,
about
will
will
link
allow-
into the 911 system also.
and that identify, and like I said, to me, it's a safety issue for the officers.
Right.
And it's also a supervisory issue that would assist you in your upper echelon.
That's why it's,
So that be part of this new,
it will be. It will be.
so we're talking six.
Yeah,
Now,
there's actually what we're doing. There's the court system, the record management system, a wireless capability system for the cruisers, and a GPS tracking system for the cruisers.
Now
So we
the-
really got four, maybe more than that. There's four systems that we have to get together and coordinate timing, software, hardware.
are there
It's-
any
it's
other
major.
departments within the city or county who presently the 911 center can do that you're aware of?
I know the sheriff's department just maybe within a year or two went with the where they can track them GPS. That should have been done years ago, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Through
Thank
the
you.
911. So I'm not talking about the sheriff's department. I think the CAD system at the 911 has been delayed in that aspect
I
right
understand
there.
there's some problems with it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Anybody
you. Appreciate you moving ahead with that.
Thank you, Chief.
And that's faces red.
Which now moves us to a report from the Fire Department Chief, Tim Richardson.
Good evening.
Hello.
I think the report has been submitted to all the council members. The activity for the month of October for 2021, is a total of 15 fire department call outs, 2 vehicle fires, 0 structure fires, 1 brush fire, 2 natural gas leaks, 1 carbon monoxide incident, 0 false alarms, 2 general fire alarms, 0 utility lines down, and 7 motor vehicle accidents. Total callouts for 2021 is presently at 325 calls for the fire department. And I'd like to remind you, you do have access through your dashboard and access to the city departments that you can dial in for a day, a week, a month, a year, and go back several years to all that information. And it is very specific on the calls itself. I'm giving you a general report now, but through that dashboard, it gives you complete information. Our iPad system feeds into that system, and that's worked very well for us. I'd like to compliment Tyler working with us and the city manager in regard to making that where we went from hard copy reports done on fire scenes, we're doing those on iPads now. And I think we're the only fire department, maybe in the state, that does that presently. So it's quite a compliment to our working relationship with our departments.
Chief, did we get a copy of that?
Yes, sir, you should have.
I don't see it.
Oh, and I didn't do paper copies.
You didn't.
No, I'm sorry. I
I'll
just,
be, would you like? to-
Chastise you. Yes, I'd
I
like to.
just uploaded it.
Get off this technology kit with those old folks. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Chief, how many trucks does Oak Hill have and how many firemen total?
We have, currently we have 36 firefighters. We have 4 engines, 2 rescues, 1 aerial apparatus, and 1 utility pickup.
Sounds impressive.
It's an everyday job.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Thank you, Chief. Appreciate
sir.
your time. Which now brings us to Mr. Kirk here for streets.
And Mr. Kirk is on vacation.
All right. Is there anyone going to speak for him or?
City manager.
Other than it being a very busy month as typical with, on top of everything else, decorations, this is the time of year for that. And it is, Mr. Kirk has a very busy job, a lot of details, day-to-day details, and a lot of extra additional duties every day.
Well, you covered him well.
Well, now brings us to council comments at large.
Mayor, just two things. I believe I sent you an email respective about this. The Veterans Memorial Committee has set a tentative date for November 16th at 3 p.m. in council chambers, provided council chambers is available. And we encourage anyone to attend that might have, wants to make some input. The other thing, we've had some discussion about White Oak Country Club. I contacted Mr. Jasper about 10 days ago. Told him we expressed an interest, would like to see the interior and the grounds. He was leaving Myrtle Beach, going out west, and he told me as soon as he got back in, he would give me a call and invite us to come out. So I'll make everybody aware when that happens. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman. And also thank you for your leadership on this Veterans Memorial. I think it's a worthwhile cause. Thank you.
Part of our meeting too, we hope to look at some alternate spots. And I don't know if Mr. Perry's heard back from the Joneses yet.
I just communicated the information that you gave me last time, Tom,
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
And at that time, you indicated there'd be another meeting with some other properties you were looking at. So I was waiting to talk to Tandy till you all met and came up with your options or solidified one or the other or all.
As soon as we meet and get our heads together, I'll send you something so you can forward it.
And I thank you for talking to Mr. Jasper. Thank you for the
Yeah,
follow-up
thank you.
on that.
Thank you. We'll just continue Ward 2.
Mayor, could we
Yes.
back up here
Yes,
on the
sir.
department reports and council, on the department reports?
All right.
Because it's absent on here, it was on October and so forth, possible
All
action.
right.
It's not on the
Oh.
agenda, but it should have been.
Yeah, I left that off. I'm
So
sorry.
I couldn't make these mistakes. So we could entertain a motion at this point. Correct?
Well, you know my opinion on it, but so
Well,
I'll
well.
defer to council.
Should have been on there.
Now, what was, I don't have it, I don't remember, what are you talking about there, Mr.
Well,
Perry?
under-
What's the
under-
motion?
Under reports,
Okay,
we had been advised by council that action could occur. And that's been on the last agenda, and it's been on here, but I understand one of the councilmen may have a motion they'd like to make.
all right. Is this a
Relevant-
is this a
relevant to the-
carryover from October meeting?
We could consider that, yes, so that we would legitimize and Bill's face doesn't get red.
So it pertains to what?
I would like to put this on a Christmas bonus for all city employees
Okay,
and with 2 days off.
2 days off. Is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do you have an amount for the bonus?
300.
$300 bonus and 2 days off for all city employees? Is that what the motion is?
That's the motion, yes.
All right.
Christmas break? Is that doing Christmas or just holiday?
I don't,
Christmas
Doing Christmas.
Christmas.
2 extra days off?
plus the one, that'd be a total of 3.
3 total. Okay.
What days would that be?
Christmas is on a Saturday.
That's what
We
I'm
get-
thinking. We could either go, what is that?
Wednesday, Thursday.
Thursday or Monday and Tuesday.
Or combination thereof.
The,
Are y'all open on Friday? I
No,
mean,
we
where-
are. We have let me explain this. I think everybody knows, but it's worth explaining. City Hall is open 50 hours a week. Each of us are scheduled to work. We usually work more, but scheduled to work 40 hours a week. So on Mondays, half of us are working. On Fridays, half of us are working. And so we do a split shift like that. So each of us work a 4-day week, but City Hall's open 5 days. Is that confusing or?
No, no,
Okay,
you got full coverage.
yeah.
That kind of gets in the way of the state law regarding holidays in a way. Kind of makes it a little bit more cumbersome to deal with, doesn't it, Bill?
Which days off?
What's that?
What state law? I'm not.
Well, when a holiday falls on a weekend,
Yeah.
Saturday or Sunday. So, I mean, you can deal with it, but
We
it's a
deal
little
with
bit more difficult to calculate.
There's
what
some
to do.
unique situations.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me understand his motion.
All right.
$300 bonus. 2 days plus the one. And I guess my question would be, Tom, Friday's automatic, right?
Well, that's Christmas.
But I'm
Eve.
saying,
Yeah. Friday,
Friday and Monday would be. for
no,
Monday,
Friday,
Friday.
In other words, it's 1 day now already, right?
Right.
Which is Friday, conceivably.
It can be Friday. We can shift everybody. I don't think it's a problem. Everybody that's usually off on Mondays,
Well-
we can have everybody come in on Mondays.
Would it be better, and this is just a question, and I agree with the motion, Mr. Smallwood and Mr. Jackson. I think the city employees deserve it. I think each meeting we have sat here and commended them for the work they do with limited persons. And I particularly appreciate the Christmas holiday, and it's good for them to be with their families. So with that said, my question would be, would a combination of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Wednesday, it appears to me that maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday may be a better approach than Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You wouldn't be.
Right.
So could I amend that motion to,
Yes,
pardon?
yes, sir.
So I would amend the motion that the 2 additional days be taken on Thursday and Monday.
Okay, Thursday and Monday, because you already get off Friday and Saturday and Sunday.
I got a question, Bill, but the office would still be open basically because people take days off on different days?
No,
Is that what we're doing? Or we just close it
Not
down?
for
They
the
would,
holiday.
they would
Club.
squeeze it, they would go ahead
Oh, okay,
and
just
work
close
the
every-
days that you
close
were
it.
open,
Okay.
right?
right.
Okay.
So is there
Okay.
room in the budget to to do a $500 budget instead of 300? I mean, a $500 bonus instead of 300?
yeah, it would be.
So you're
Yeah.
going from 14,000 to what if we go
My
5?
net- I can't
23.
think of that in my head.
Huh? About $2,300 more dollars?
No, it'd be about 23,000.
For our, we have about 40.
I mean, they all do
Five
work really hard,
employees.
200.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
especially these city guys who are gonna hang lots of lights for me during Christmas time in the freezing cold.
Maybe they'll get the one working down there across from Methodist Church.
Maybe we ought to get some new ones.
If it's possible, I would like to see us go for $500 as a Christmas bonus.
I'll second her amendment.
Do I hear 750?
Move the previous question. Move the previous question as amended.
Can I ask a question though? Do you want the gross to be 500 or the net?
Gross.
Gross.
Okay.
I also, well, I will vote the motion and I'll make a comment.
I think it was almost easier listening to the county clerk
That's
go
what
over these
I was
various
gonna ask
districts.
Michelle to
and to
explain
try to
this
figure-
raise and stuff.
Try to figure this motion out here on
Now,
the,
do we get that bonus?
you can add that, Mr. Perry, you
No,
can
but
throw
you-
that in
You
there.
I
get
don't
the
think
days
that's
off.
allowed.
You
I
get
don't
the
think
days
that's-
off, Counselor.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
All right, so to clean all this up, can we just have just one motion that would put all these together
Yes, as amended.
as amended? So the motion is as amended. $500 bonus to all city employees with the following days off, Thursday through Monday, starting on December 23rd and going up to the 27th of December. Is that the motion?
That is
Or
the
whatever it is.
motion.
Is there a second, I guess?
It is.
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Jackson. Been properly moved and seconded. And you've heard the motion. I would not dare try to go through it again, but you've already heard it. You heard it. So Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to, 7-0. Thank you very much, and I would concur.
I
with-
have, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I
interrupted.
concur with Councilman Perry and Krista Hodges, Councilwoman Hodges, as to that the work done by the city employees, I think is absolutely exemplary. And I don't think anyone can challenge the work ethic and the job that's being done for the city of Oak Hill. So I will have to echo the comments of Councilwoman Hodges and Councilman Perry and Councilman anyone else who made those comments. So I thank you. And I totally agree. Mr. Perry.
Mayor, I'd also like to request that this check be accompanied by a letter signed by you and the city manager.
I think the whole city council's name should be on it. Don't you think?
How you gonna run us all down?
Just get him together.
I
Huh?
think all councils should have their name.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, but I think,
Yeah,
but
should
I
add all
think, I
council.
think a letter should
Okay.
accompany that, commending them for the service and identifying that it's been approved by the council and the city and the leadership within the city.
I think that's that is a good idea, and I don't, if anyone, no one objects. And there's some way, Mr. Hannabas, that we can get the signatures of all council people so the city employees realize that it was a joint effort by the city government to pass this on. So any more comments from Ward 2? Mr. Hazlett.
I had a constituent ask about the parking spot in front of the C&O cleaners. That used to be the sidewalk painted yellow there, and when they come through and redid the sidewalks, they never painted it back to block that off, and that corner kind of tight to get off of Euler Avenue on the main street there. And I've been in that situation.
Coming this direction?
Yes.
Okay.
Some of the paint's still there, you can see it, but they're wondering if we could paint that off again.
Yeah, I agree. It causes you to swing
Yeah.
way out, even in just a regular. vehicle.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Have you talked to everybody in that area with businesses? Do you feel there's be any objection?
I don't, and I was gonna talk to Mr. Willis tonight about it, but he's not, I didn't see he was here tonight, and I don't think there would be any objections to it. It seems that
It's just faded.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it's been blocked off,
Okay.
and he's got plenty of parking on the other side of the building and behind the building, and it's just right, that last parking spot, like right on the corner.
Anything else from Ward 2?
The lights and cameras at the park, Harlem Heights Park.
They are at the, of course, there is new lights at the basketball court. And the lights around the walking trail, we've got a quote, we'll move forward with that. Get electricity down through there.
No more comments?
I don't have anything.
Ward 1,
Yes, sir.
Councilwoman Janey.
It's nice to be back.
Appreciate your back.
Thank you. Where Mr. Lassinger at home was taken down, all the wood is still on the property.
I noticed that. I went by and checked it, and there was I wasn't overly concerned about, there was a truck that was loaded there, but I'll monitor that. But they did have, it appeared they have a means to haul that off.
I was just asking.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Councilwoman Hodges.
I would like to very much thank Tyler for always answering my phone calls. I really appreciate that. And Mr. Hannabas, Demita, and especially the city workers for helping me deliver 60 pumpkins twice. That was, I very much appreciate that. So their hard work doesn't go unnoticed.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Councilman Perry.
This is for my colleague, my esteemed colleague, Mr. Oxley. Number one, I'd like to request that a place be set under the reports for the city manager. If he has something to report to us, he could do it at that time and we could answer questions just as we have the other reports from the department heads. Number two, I would like to commend the city manager, Demita, as Krista has done, the chief, the fire chief, Tyler, for the responsiveness and the availability they have made to me as well. It's commendable. And as I've said before you sit in this seat, you have one idea about things, but once you walk into moccasins, it's a little different story. And I have followed Mr. Oxley's advice and met with Mr. Hannibas almost weekly. And again, he's made himself available in the midst of phone calls, and the whole city government has been very responsive, as well as the chief. So thank you folks on my behalf. Mr. Oxley, that's all I have.
Will the minutes reflect that?
Move we adjourn.
The minutes reflect that, please, for the next month. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Perry. Thank you. Which brings us down to the comments from the mayor. I only have three things to bring up there, Mr. Hannibas. Has there been any progress on the removing trash or going after Blackburn's pawn shop there on Virginia Street, the corner of Virginia and Central? I brought it up last time. I don't know if anybody's been after it or not.
There has been, and I would have to look at my report to pinpoint that to see exactly what's happened there, but there has been, I don't know if you can call it progress, but some activity at that location and
some movement.
Some movement on our part.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And I would also take the opportunity while we're talking about that. Mr. Light is a retired employee of the Department of Highways, and Mr. Light can only work so many hours a year. And actually, he has been off work for about a week now. And so at this time of year, until next calendar year, he's off. So it's a hardship on us, and we all pass out and divvy out what he does the rest of the year, and does a fantastic job at it, incidentally. Frees up a lot of my time and the chief's time and everybody else. And I appreciate the chief's department cooperating with Mr. Light, and he has a tough job. And so I try to protect his hours the best I can so that we maximize them here at the city, but he works 20 hours a week and then has to quit before he gets into trouble working too much.
Bill, is that hours or a salary of $20,000?
$20,000.
Because that was the Perry bill that came in for Mr. Dotson. It was
Oh,
known
yeah.
as the Dotson bill.
Okay.
Because it used to be 15,000.
Yeah, it's 20,000 now, but
Thank you.
yes, sir. Thank you.
The second point is, as you probably know, or maybe not, when this city hall was built, that the Jones family gave the property to the city for the construction of this building we're in now. I think this is the only city hall in Fayette County that was built just for a city hall. I think other towns have used other buildings. I don't know of any other town in the county that has a building just for City Hall built that way, but this one. And part of the deed, if you read it, it says that in return for the property, a bronze plaque was to be installed in the property or in the building to commemorate and to memorialize the gift from the Jones family. So it's now almost, it's 93 years later, and the plaque is still not put up. So there's a question whether it's even legal that we have this building. After almost a century, that's still not, the plaque is still not up. So I met with the city manager about a month ago or longer, and we worked out a bronze plaque, and it's been ordered, and it is here. It's been here for a few weeks. But the question I have for the council is, we need a date that council would agree to install that plaque and unveil it. It'd be some good publicity for Oak Hill. Channel 4 could be here, the Tribune, the Beckley paper. It's an interesting story that a city now it's better late than never to erect a plaque that's supposed to have been done almost a century ago, but somewhere along the way it didn't make it. But we're going to correct it after all those years. And I think it'd be really nice, Mr. Perry and Mr. Oxley from council, who have connections to the Jones family, to be able to invite some of them here to do the actual unveiling and maybe make a few comments about their ancestor who gave the property to the city almost a century ago. So that is my little spiel there as to when should we have this unveiling and have the press and the TV here to do a nice little story on it for Oak Hill. So that's my question to council.
Mayor, I don't speak often. But I would recommend we do it prior to the December 13th council meeting.
All right. Anyone else have any ideas? Mr. Perry says before the next meeting in December, sometime in November, I guess, or early December, as to when we should have this event.
That would be December 13th, and I'd say let's do it about 4:30 or so, and that takes up just one evening.
December 13th?
Yeah, that's our next council meeting, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
That's just a suggestion.
Prior to that.
I think
Prior
it,
to our meeting.
Oh, okay.
That,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha.
If we do it at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, the meeting is not tied up till 6, so that.
well, I was thinking about maybe a Saturday, and my view is, because I was going to put together a program and a biographical sketch of Mr. Jones, which I already have found, and I know he died in 1913 down in Florida. So I have that information, and I thought that I need to get a picture of Mr. Jones from the Jones family and put together a program. And I thought that would be, and then have food afterwards. I thought that might be a nice thing to do on a Saturday, maybe. That way we would not be rushed to get to the city council meeting, because which I'm never rushed to get to city council.
Did it at 4:30, so you had city employees.
That's
you
what I
had
was thinking.
good- Better attendance, I believe.
Yeah.
If you did it on a Saturday, and we can still have the reception afterwards.
Yeah, well, just whatever then.
Still put together what you're proposing.
Yeah, I've been working on a
But I'm
biographical
agreeable with
sketch.
whatever, as long as Marshall's not in a bowl game that Saturday.
All right. So
They
that's-
won't be.
Your face is red, Mr. Hamilton. But that's my suggestion.
Any other
Of course,
comments from
I'm
council?
in agreement with whatever the rest of the council wants.
Well, you know, you may give a option to the Jones family of several dates,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
some of them could attend, because I think it would be altogether fitting and proper if some could be here.
Would you like for me to make that contact?
I think that'd be,
Yeah,
Good, if you
appreciate it.
could.
Yes, thank
if you
you.
don't mind.
Give me some ideas, guys.
Where do they live? In Charleston?
Tandy is in North Carolina. The gal's in Greenbrier County. The other daughter's in Charleston, yes. And I don't know where their grandchildren are.
They may not want to come up on a Monday.
Pardon?
They may not want to be here on a Monday
Yeah,
evening.
probably.
I just follow Tom's lead and tell them what the mayor wants to do.
I mean,
We're asking what would be convenient for them.
Yeah,
and
that's
they would like to
convenient.
participate.
Yeah, what's convenient for them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let them give us several dates.
Yeah, let them do
Because we're here.
Yeah, we're here.
See what days they throw back at us.
Understood.
We could do it after the Christmas parade on December 11th
Okay.
or before the Christmas parade.
Okay.
or-
I'll throw that out as a possible
Have
thing.
you invited the band to be in the band?
We haven't sent out letters yet.
Because they're in Mount Hopes and Fairfield, and I asked why, I said, how come you're not?
Gotcha.
I
Let's move on.
don't know if they're having. I said,
We had some issues.
All right, so I take it then that the Jones family will get back to us through Mr. Perry, and we'll have some idea as to when's the best time to do it. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So we can unveil that plaque, and maybe, hopefully they won't think about it being so late.
The Christmas parade is December 11th at 1 o'clock,
1 o'clock.
right?
December 11th.
That's a Saturday.
That's a Saturday.
Yeah.
The theme is Christmas Dreamin', like California Dreamin', but it's Christmas Dreamin'.
At 1 o'clock.
Moving right along.
All right, and one more thing.
Everybody get on their surfboards.
Dye my hair blonde. All right, brings me to the last point from the mayoral comments, and that is, I'd like to throw this out to council to think about, that our meetings at 6:30, I think is fairly late, especially the winter coming up on us. And I would like to throw out an idea that we meet earlier instead of 6:30. And I just didn't know what council's views may be on that. May not want to do it at all, but I would, yes, chief?
I was just giving you a thumbs up, Mayor.
Oh, you want to, the chief wants it earlier too. Anybody have, any council have any comments about that?
I'd like to meet at 5:30, if that would work for everybody.
5:30?
That would work for me.
Steve, you having trouble meeting early?
I had trouble getting here at 6:30, to be all perfectly honest. It's a
He's the
struggle
only one I
every
know
every
of.
Oh.
Monday.
Okay.
It is, but
So could you struggle for 5:30?
I have the wife getting off work.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
she's always late
We
getting off
can
work.
block this off. You can bring the boys. out.
Tickle me to death. Yeah.
Governor-
What time did she get off, Steve?
Governor Justice.
She
will
came
take
in
care
the
of
door
little-
tonight at
You
5
see that
after
picture?
6.
Oh, then never mind.
So,
about
but
6 o'clock?
sometimes she can get off earlier. I mean, her schedule varies. It just depends on her patient load.
I agree with Ms. Hodges. I'd like to see 5:30 for a
30?
reason of the people, the
But I'll make it
department
work.
heads and so forth that have to
I-
stay here.
I agree too. Earlier is better.
All
The
right,
earlier you start, the earlier you get out.
5:30?
Are you all right if we can shoot for 5:30 and then change it if you can't?
Yeah, if it doesn't work out.
Make it effective January?
I
Give
can
people
always
time.
Zoom.
Huh?
I can always Zoom.
Does this need to be on the agenda for December for an actual vote?
Yes.
I don't.
I don't think
Yeah.
so.
You have to
Yeah,
vote on the
because
time.
it says
Oh, that's right.
a time and date, I mean, the time is
As
prescribed by
set
council,
by
so
In the charter.
it should be a look like a resolution. or something.
Okay, so we'll put it on for the December 13th meeting.
Yeah,
To
that's-
take
I mean,
formal
that's fine.
action,
I'll make it work.
formal action on this, on proposal. And the proposal is, it seems like 5:30 PM beginning January meeting. And we'll vote on that one way or the other in December 13th. All right. That's all I had from the mayoral comments. A minute for the minutes. I have a couple of interesting ones. Chief Wisman, I think you'll find this one interesting. October 4th, 1937. Well, motion duly seconded by Dewey Kincaid, was appointed a special policeman to work in his spare time from 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. each week with full time on Saturdays. His compensation was to be the regular arrest fees, should any be made, and regular police officers' bond to be executed and filed with the city of Oak Hill. So he got paid if he made any arrests. I have a feeling he made some from 9 to 2:30 p.m. each week and all day on Saturday. That was Dewey Kincaid was appointed a special policeman for the city on October 4, 1937. On June the 6th, 1938, before City Council, a delegation from East End Oak Hill appeared before the council requesting admittance of that section to the city of Oak Hill. Election was ordered to determine the will of the people. And Chief Richardson, you'll find this one interesting. Is he still here?
Yeah.
Oh, where is he? Oh, there he is. November 7th, 1938, meeting of City Council, the fire department agreed to sell the LaSalle truck to Tracy Moses for $150 to be paid in gas and oil to be furnished for the WPA trucks on the street, for the street projects over the next several months. So the fire department sold the truck to him for $150 and he was to pay it in gas and oil. It's an interesting barter there, I think. $150 for LaSalle. What would that go for now, Chief? A used LaSalle, if they still make them?
We actually had an opportunity to buy that truck back at one time.
Oh, did you?
I have pictures of that truck.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in the buyer's eyes, Mayor. It could be much as $25,000.
I guess you didn't buy it back. You weren't going to buy back an oil and gas, were you?
Right now, probably rather have
Yeah.
Well, those are the minutes of Oak Hill City Council meetings of long ago. which brings us to unfinished business. And number one, ordinance approving submission of the City of Oak Hill's Home Rule Plan Amendment, public meeting, second reading. Mr. Hannah.
Okay. Mayor, if I could, we have some folks in attendance, and if council doesn't object, that I would, the Bushes are here, and Becky's here, and a couple other people. If I could go, if I could pick out some items, Mr. Love is on attending my Zoom. And if council doesn't object, I'd like to go to item number 20. First, if no one objects. And this is the, let me scroll down on the screen here. This is the Structural Inspection Board recommendation to demolish portions of the structure located at 1214 East Main Street, and gives the map number, to the extent of abating the imminent hazard to public safety, owned by Ken Tho LLC and BTB LLC and Gerald Auto Parts. And you can see on the screen in front of you, there's a marker on the part of the structure that has a problem. And I'd like to go through just a couple pictures, and if I could, if there's no objection, Mayor, I'd like to recognize Mr. Bush. But this is the front of the building, some handsome guy's reflection in the window there. And this is looking through a crack in that portion, and what you're looking at is actually the floor, is second story floor has collapsed down through that part of the structure. And I wanted to point out on this photograph, it's a little bit hard to see in a photo, but there's actually a little bit of buckling on this wall, which is pretty scary. You know, this is on Main Street. I'm standing on the sidewalk when I took that photo. And unfortunately, the property line appears to run in the middle of this stairwell. And Mr. Bush is shaking his head affirmatively. So it's a sticky situation. As you look at this photo, everything on the right is an imminent hazard, and Mr. Bush's property is on the left and has been maintained. So that's the long and short of it. And there is a formal recommendation in front of council for demolition. But I think at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Billy Bush, and for any comment you may have, Billy.
Hey, thanks, I appreciate it. So in 2019, I contacted Mr. Bragg, and he told me he was going to repair the building in spring of 2020. Well, obviously that did not happen. So I contacted Mr. Bragg on 2 different occasions, and he did not return a voicemail. So I reached out to Mr. Hannibas, and that's when the structural board decided to demo the building. Well, last Monday, when I was served and Dave was served, he actually contacted me, and we had a meeting. Crazy enough, he told me he already had plans to fix up the building and asked me if I would rather him have it demoed or repaired. Well, obviously, there's a common stairwell, and I share that one entire wall. So it'd be in my best interest if he would fix the building just to the point where I could fix the stairwell. So I don't know exactly if you have to vote to demo the building. My recommendation would be to give him X amount of time to repair the building. If he doesn't do it then demo it. So,
Bill, I got a quick question. Is this the same Mr. Bragg that owns the gas station beside it?
Yes, sir.
He didn't do anything on the gas station until we voted to demo it. That may be a match that strikes the fire.
well, that's the way it has to be.
Because he had plans to fix it up too, but there was never any fixing until we said it needs to come down.
This is my wife, Sherry.
So.
Microphone.
Would you all, just so you actually voted to demo the gas station and then he had recourse after you voted to demo, he had so long to fix it?
I think he appealed
He
that
done it.
decision.
He appealed it.
He
Okay.
he did. He
Okay.
appealed it.
So if that is the case on that building, I mean, if maybe that would be the way to go. I mean, vote to demo it and then he could fix it. It is, like Billy said, in our best interest for him to fix it. But, we've communicated, well, Billy's communicated with him many times and he's
Right.
had many promises that he was going to be fixing it. He never has. And yeah, so
Right.
I'm afraid it's going to lay out over in the street one day.
Yeah.
Because
me too.
the roof is gone.
Maybe the thing to do is go ahead and vote to demo it.
Well, you can, but council also, this is a recommendation in front of council. I actually serve on the structural inspection board as a member, and so does the mayor, and actually the fire chief is present too. Our recommendation was to demolish, so I don't want to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but council does have the prerogative to, to hear argument like they are now that, hey, maybe demo's not the right thing, or, give me more time, or, whatever the argument might be. So I think, not speaking for the structural inspection board, but I believe council has the choice now to make. Do we order it demolished or do we order it repaired? And it might be wise for council to, if they agree with the repair, and I see the advantage too. We struggled with this, to repair versus demo. But I think council has the prerogative.
Bill, if we serve notice to demolish, which you did on the gas station, he still could come back and repair, correct? If we so granted.
If you so granted, yeah.
It's also, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this process that's being recommended was reviewed by a city attorney file.
Correct.
I gotta, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, like, if we do vote to demolish, and it just say if we demolish it, just the way the property line is, can we tear down just that little bit without damaging his property?
I don't see how you can.
That's
It's
what.
going to be very
Because
difficult.
it's gonna leave
It's
him with
gonna-
just a stairwell on the outside, or just a wall on the outside. It's gonna be an outside wall only.
At the very least, these folks standing right here, you're going to greatly inconvenience them.
That's kind of what
I'm
I'm
Tenants-
thinking.
Let me ask this. You through, Tess?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I ask this each time. If we serve notice, what are the time periods?
Okay, if we have to get the sheriff who's still attending here to serve an order to demolish.
Which
And
could take,
and once that order is served on the property owner, then we have to give them 20 days to respond and start the demolition. And after 20 days expires, then council can, by resolution, authorize the city to tear the structure down.
which would take, because you'd have to bid and all that stuff,
Yeah,
right?
about 3 months.
So that's 90 plus 20, 110, right? Days.
Right. But
So what I would recommend is that we amend this to say that, I don't know how to say it, but somebody can help me out here. In other words, to see progress and define progress to begin within the 110 days.
right.
And if no progress occurs, then proceed with demolition.
Well, let me ask this, and this is council's.
I understand
decision,
that, so you don't have to
obviously.
explain that.
But if the goal, we've heard argument that, the Bushes would rather see it repaired, be less inconvenience on them, less danger to them. And that's what council's really intending. Why doesn't council say that we order you to repair?
Okay, if we can do that.
I'm
Yeah.
all for
Oh, so we
that.
can do that? We can say,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Okay, that
Mr.
sounds,
Bush,
I have a question for Mr. Bush.
When you met with Mr. Bragg, did he say he had contractors or anybody lined out to start working on the property, or just, I'm gonna start working on it and fixing it?
Well, actually, he showed me some estimates from materials. He says he put together 2 weeks ago. Now, he did tell me that the contractor team would be himself and somebody else he knows, and John Legg and somebody. So he seemed to think it would be himself.
Thank you.
And another thing, I don't know, if maybe that building needs to be evaluated structurally, even if the roof is repaired, is it still safe because of all the damage that's already occurred?
That side wall worries me.
Right.
Every time you drive by, you can see the huge crack going up the side of it.
Looks like it's.
I
Well,
just,
I'm
I
very
just think
con-
it's gonna be like downtown Beckley. One day the wind's gonna blow and it's gonna come down.
I'm very concerned with the buckling
Mhm.
that's in the photo that's on the screen right now. That concerns me as much as anything, that whole wall, it's a whole lot of tonnage right there that can end up on the sidewalk and kill somebody.
And if you get up and start working on the roof of it, you're disturbing all of that.
yeah.
It's possibly where everything is falling. I mean, it's fallen and put pressure
Yep.
on that wall.
And actually, to comment further on what you just asked me, he also told me himself that if I chose to demolish the building, the same people were going to demolish.
Do what? Oh,
His
Same team that he has prepared to repair it would demolish. That's just what he said.
that's John Legg.
Mr. Bush, just a question and a comment. You may recall when I was city manager, we looked at this situation. Do you remember that?
Mhm.
So I question his credibility. I really do. I'd like to see it repaired for you and Sherry. It's in your best interest. And it probably is his best interest long-term. But I don't know that we can value what he tells us. You know,
I don't
again,
disagree.
I mean, I'm like Mr. Perry, 110 days, he could do lots of stuff or he could do nothing. And he might wait till the last minute and file an injunction. Who knows what he's going to do? So I think, like Bill said, we have the option of voting to repair. And I think you said, and seeing some progress within a certain amount of days, we can do that. We can always come back and revisit. There's nothing that says we can't, correct?
Right.
So.
I have one question. You see,
got
Tom?
to-
Who would be, if it's demolished, you have a stairway there that provides access. Who would that be 50-50 to construct a wall and stairway, or does that become your responsibility?
Well, that's a very, very good question.
You have to be determined.
Yeah, because my property line is right in the middle of that stairwell. So I guess theoretically, if I had to build another wall for a stairwell, I guess theoretically, I would be building that on his property.
And you'd have to have cooperation him again.
More than likely.
Would you be able to get away with like a fire escape type external
Backside.
stairway?
Backside wouldn't work. I don't
No.
know if the whole building, well, no, because it goes all the way through
Mhm.
the property line. Goes
Tom,
all the way
I-
from front to back.
I concur with you and I would second any motion that you make.
Don't
I mean,
say
I'm
that.
being serious. I'm not being
Maybe as
smart.
this gentleman said, the way to go is order it to be demolished and let him appeal it.
That's
'Cause
the only,
Evidently, it worked the
that's
other
the only
time.
thing that got him started on the gas station.
You know, the history's there. He told you 2 years, he's done nothing. The history was there with the gas station, and he didn't do anything until. And we want to keep you as a good businessman, but still, by the same token,
Thank you.
Say,
you might have insured that and you'd be liable if it failed. And if it fell over,
Let's not go there.
and if it fell,
You
and
know
if it
better.
fell over and drug your property into it too, there's a liability there.
Correct.
It is already a major liability for our renters.
Okay.
That, we've put a lot of money into trying to salvage what we could on that staircase because chunks, were falling down on the steps.
Well, considering our most recent past history and hearing all the comments, both pro and con, I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the recommendation from the structural inspection board and give him orders to demolish.
I third it.
All right. Been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to, 7-0. Anything else, Mr. Hannah out of order here that you want to do?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Item number 17 is the Fayette County Comprehensive Plan. I believe Mr. Pena also has another item to discuss. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And this Mr. Pena.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you, council members. My name is Gabriel Pena. I'm the Fayette County Resource Coordinator. I realize you have a very long agenda, so I'll try to keep this brief. I'm going to pass out right quick a one-page sheet that solicits some information from all county residents to give you an idea of the information that we're looking for this comprehensive plan.
Thank you, sir.
So this is a stripped down version of the information that we're looking for from Fayette County residents. You'll notice at the bottom of this sheet, there's a website there, hla.fyi/Fayette County. That is a website where you can provide a lot more information via a mapping tool. There's a few surveys on there. But this sheet right here, these 4 questions are the heart of the information that we're looking for our 10-year comprehensive plan for Fayette County. The time to update that plan is now. We were really shooting for January 1 to have this plan completed, but the pandemic and a few other issues kind of set us back. And so we are trying best we can to get information from Fayette County residents on the priorities they feel are important to help move our county forward. You may have noticed in the lobby or in the front of Town Hall, there is a box, small box. It has little sheets like this, and that box is a receptacle for this information. You can drop it in there. We're shooting for 1,000 responses. As of the October 27th County Commission meeting, we had 160. So we're really trying to get folks to give us their feedback on this plan. So Tuesday, November 16th, here in this room at 10 a.m., we'll be having more of a group style meeting where we'll walk through this and try to gather from the group what are your top 5 issues that you want to see the Fayette County leadership focus on moving forward. So, but if you just want to fill this out, send it back to my office, which is in the Fayette County Courthouse, or back to Jenna Grayson, the Director of Strategic Partnerships with the NRGRDA. That would be fine as well. But I like to remain neutral on this, let you give me your feedback. I don't want to give you any ideas, but I did notice on your agenda, you have a number of dilapidated buildings or issues related to dilapidated buildings on your agenda. Just to do a segue to my next item, we are working on a EPA Brownfields grant that looks at redevelopment planning in our communities. The Fayette County Resource Coordinator's Office was successful in getting one of these for the communities of Montgomery and Smithers. I will be targeting Oak Hill for the next grant we're going after that looks at redevelopment planning, not money for tearing down structures, but just looking at how do we redevelop our communities in a way that facilitates economic growth, benefits for our community. So I will be asking Mr. Hannah for a letter of support for that application. He gave me one last year. We only missed that application. Out of 130 points, we got 123. This is a nationwide application competition. And so we just missed it, but I'll go back, punt, and try again. But that's just a side note. Just want to let you know that's something we're working on in the Resource Coordinator's Office. really, this comprehensive plan is very important, and any other issues you feel like are important, please don't hesitate to put that here or give us a call, the Fayette County Courthouse, 574-1200.
Gabe, who will be here on the 16th
Uh,
at 10 a.m.? Who'll be in this chamber?
John Brenneman said he would be here, but you know how politicians are. So
Here.
I don't know. It'll be myself or Abby Newell, my assistant. So maybe both of us. If we might have to stop by 110 and get one of the other biggest assets we have in Fayette County, that Gouda mac and cheese. So, but maybe both of us. But anyways,
Just at 10 a.m.
10 a.m. Yes, November 16th. That is open to the public. It's a public meeting, and we are having these all over the county. That's just the one we're having for Oak Hill. So,
Mr. Hannabes, would you make sure
Do you have any
everybody is
evening
reminded
ones?
of this by your emails?
I can do that.
Thank you,
Fayetteville,
thank you.
Yeah, I'd have to pull it up. You can find us in Fayette County Hollering. That is the Fayette County. Should also be on the Fayette County Commission's Facebook page.
Okay.
But I believe on the 16th that evening also, there'll be one in Fayetteville at 6:30 in the Memorial Building.
Is there going to be any focus and discussion on housing? We have a real problem in Fayette County, Oak Hill, and everywhere for housing.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So again, the HLA.FYI, that's Halcyon Levine. And those are the contractors who were supposed to be helping us compile all this information to one coherent, succinct document. They, from what I understand, had been tasked in also doing a housing study as part of the comprehensive planning process. So I haven't got an update on that. The liaison between the county commission and Halcyon Levine is the New River Gorge Regional Development Authority. So that's kind of a question for Ms. Belcher and her team.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, council
So
members.
do you need a recommendation, write that letter, or are you gonna write the letter, or what?
If council doesn't object, Gabe will get a letter and we'll do it.
We'll just recycle the one from last year.
Yeah.
Let's change it.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it, Joel.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, Mayor, if I could move up to item 15 and the item that's on the agenda for contribution to Southern West Virginia's CVB that Becky had mentioned earlier. While Becky's here, I believe she wanted to address that or address concerns that council may have.
Did you have something else to say, Becky? Okay.
Oh,
Bill, if I might, I'm the one that asked me to put this on the agenda. I don't often go on the web pages for NRGRDA or NRG CVB or Southern West Virginia, as Becky can attest to. But I went on visit Southern West Virginia CVB, reading their narrative. And they spoke like it covers the 9 southernmost counties in the state. And the region includes major cities like Beckley, Fayetteville, Summersville, Hinton, Union, Princeton, Bluefield, Lewisburg, and more. So I sent Lisa an email. Don't have a copy of it. I said, I appreciate you leaving Oak Hill out. Now, she was nice enough to respond to me and said, part of which, thank you for your email. Although we do try and keep up with all the content online, we sometimes overlook important details. Since Oak Hill's been a city since 1903, I think they really did overlook it. And I don't appreciate it. That's that 7.5% doesn't get us a whole lot of mileage when you leave that off your main page. So I'm gonna make a motion here in a minute that we table this till I can sit down with the city treasurer and see how this needs to be evaluated. And our new member of the CVB might want to sit in on that too. You know, I'm a little bit concerned about the composition of the New River Gorge CVB. And I know you told me that anyone, you know, dealing with tourism has to be supported. Well, you remember the Boston Tea Party? no taxation without representation. Well, this is the reverse. No representation without taxation. Those members are not paying anything. And I'm talking about the 6 Fedville members. But yet they make up a significant number that determines how that money is to be expended. I don't know that that's, I don't know if it's, I don't know the statute that well. But I think we need to discuss it and maybe need to look at somehow overhauling that. You know, Fedville has their own CVB. That's all well and good. I guess they're better than the rest of the county, so they don't want to be part of the county CVB. I don't know their reason, but they've had it for years, so I can't say much. But anyway, I think I'm gonna make a motion that we table this discussion until a subsequent meeting, and Mr. Perry and I can sit down with the meeting, perhaps anyone else that would like to, without establishing a quorum. So that's my motion.
I second the motion. Mr. Oxley, may I ask a question prior to vote, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Is this the same when the lady appeared with the magazine? Is this the same organization that we got a very little blip in the magazine? You remember Mayor Hickman's sister?
Southern West Virginia
Jenny
CBB.
Craig.
Is this
Jenny
is this the same?
Jenny Craycraft came.
Yeah, this is the same
It's all
Right, part of what Tom said was
visit
Southern.
Southern West.
It's two different things.
Thank you. But it
Becky's executive
comes,
chairman of NRG CVB and the Fayette County Chamber. We, if I'm correct, we give money to them. They bundle it and send it
Right.
to Southern West Virginia CVB.
so we were slated on the magazine though, too, if I remember.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just, that started my thinking, and I thought, you know, let's discuss this and see. As Becky says, more bang for a buck, and we're not getting any bang at all in some of that part. So I
I
just think we
second
need
the
to
motion.
discuss it.
I second the motion.
So we're
Concur.
tabling, giving the 7%.
We're
the
tabling
7
any action
Okay,
at all.
okay.
All right, you've heard the motion. Any more discussion? This is the table. We'll now vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion's agreed to, 7-0. It is now tabled until Councilman Oxley and Councilman Perry can meet with the chamber people and talk this over. All right, anything else, Mr. Hannah-Bass, out of order?
One more item, Mayor, and I apologize. The last item, out of order, wishful thinking for a moment, is the Structural Inspection Board recommendation to demolish a structure located at 526 Gatewood Road, owned by Property Traders. Now, in a moment, Mr. Love is attending by Zoom. And there was correspondence that Mr. Love sent. I emailed that to each of you. He questioned whether I did last month, but it was also in your packet information last month. But anyway, and before we recognize Mr. Love, there are before and after pictures here. So I'd like to point out, I think it's pretty obvious, the before pictures. On your screen now is a before picture. And this is after it's been spray painted. And one thing too, there is an electric meter placed. You can see it there. This is a before picture. There's some debris here, and you'll see some more debris in a moment. This has been spray painted, just overcoated, and I do see an electric light burning on the side of the building. Another after picture. And here's a before picture with a lot of pallets here that Mr. Love's credit were cleaned up. So that's the photographs, and Mr. Love in his correspondence is making an argument that that he should be given the opportunity to repair the structure as opposed to demolish. And there was a host of photographs. I trust everyone had an opportunity to review those in the correspondence. And he even rescored our structural inspection board scores. I'm sure that wasn't unbiased. So anyway, let me, if no one objects, to recognize Mr. Love, and I'm going to ask to unmute the phone and the other device that you're connected with. And
Bill, may I make a comment before we recognize him?
yes, sir.
I voted no. And this is residential property. It's zoned residential and not business, correct?
It is a non-conforming use, or was a non-conforming use.
And when I looked at this picture, was that the Camco sign they just painted over the Camco sign?
Yes, sir.
Also, it was my understanding, Mr. Oxley requested that he arrange a viewing of the facility before this meeting, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that right, Tom?
That's correct.
And he indicated that would happen. Have we been given the opportunity or privilege or a date in which to do that?
No, not exactly. I contacted Mr. Love and asked about council having the opportunity for him to, and it was voluntary on his part, that he agreed to during the last meeting. And he said that the stage he was at right now, it was not a good time to view or look at the interior of the building.
Although he had agreed to it prior to.
That was my understanding from the last.
And
council meeting.
if I might clarify, my reasoning was I wanted not just member of council, but the structural inspection board members to take a look at it, because they're the ones that graded in the beginning. They would know if any progress had been made. And what we're seeing is purely cosmetic. We're not seeing anything to do with the structure. So Bill requested it. Mr. Love said he could not be available. However, there were workers there. I don't know why they couldn't have made the building available through the workers.
And I fully agreed with what you suggested, Tom. Why did he feel it necessary to get a grading of his own and not respect and accept the SIB board of the city? And only he probably can respond to that.
He should respond to that. And I believe, more than likely, I think due to the work that's been accomplished there, that he had rescored.
And I saw the contracts he sent us with a contractor or something that you sent us, correct?
Correct.
Did he ever, or has there ever been a dollar figure set that he's willing to invest in that project?
I'm not sure. That would be a good question.
And he could
for Mr.
respond to
Love
that.
In a moment. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Bill.
Are you all turning it over to me now?
Yes, sir. If are there any other comments first? No. Yes, Mr. Love, if you would respond.
Okay, so the first thing I want to address is there's a lot of misrepresentations going on, and I feel it's a great injustice. The last vote that occurred following my testimony, it was alleged that we had possession of the property for approximately 3 years. In fact, members of this council based their vote to vote no based on this misinformation.
That's
Public
not
record. It was stated before the vote by one of the members, and I'm not sure whose name, they said out aloud, and he's had it for 2 or 3 years. Mr. Hannibus attempted to correct that, but the thought that Mr. Hannibus was communicating wasn't clearly completed. We were in possession of this property for only 8 months before the Structural Inspection Board completed its report. Prior to that, this property was owned by the neighboring owner, a Martin Coleman, or the Coleman family. They also own the storage units, which are also non-conforming structures. In fact, the registered business address for Camco is next door to this property at a non-conforming structure. So it would be biased and misinformation to hold that out as a consideration regarding this demolition. Secondly, the Coleman family owned this property for decades. I've submitted in my original document proof that these structural considerations existed as far back as 2013. So the first thing I wanted to do in this meeting, in accordance to 11.04.030, I'd like to make sure all members of Structural Inspection Board or persons who provided testimony as to why this building was scored in the first place are present in this meeting. So that's my first question is who from the Structural Inspection Board is actually present now?
Mr. Love, I'm a member of the Structural Inspection Board. This is Bill Hannibas. The mayor of Oak Hill is a member of the Structural Inspection Board and is present. And the chief of the fire department is a member and is present.
Okay, my question in respect to this property being introduced is to what was the impetus to introduce this property to the Structural Inspection Board? And I want to premise that by saying that if you look at the deed work, the Coleman family stopped paying taxes in 2017. So at the very least, their past 3 full years, this property could have been referred to the Structural Board. The taxes were paid by another West Virginia company, and then it was delivered to the sheriff in 2018. In June of 2020, the entity that paid the taxes took possession of the property. They deeded that over to us in October, November 2020. So my question is, the timing as to why the Structural Inspection Board pursued this property only when there was a clear deed holder is an outstanding question. What was the impetus of the condemnation of this property at that specific time?
I received a complaint is one of the issues with the property, and also you're going back in time prior to a fire at the location, prior to the death of one of the partners in the business. Some of those time frames you're talking about, like 2017, it was occupied as a functioning business, a retail store and a headquarters for a HVAC business. So this is not set in that condition for quite as long as you're intimating.
With respect to the fire issue, I can understand that, but the structural scoring covered many other issues that would have existed beyond the date of the fire and certainly would have existed in 2017. But that could be referred to a structural engineer for testimony, but I do have an inspection report that we can get to. But as for that complaint, in accordance with 11.04.30, is the person who made the complaint present at this meeting?
That's a written complaint that you're referring to in the code.
According to the code, I believe we have the right to cross-examine that individual. Can they be made present?
Again, I believe, I'm not reading the code right now, but that's a written complaint.
I'm not understanding, but are you suggesting that the complaint is anonymous?
No, I can name the complainant, but that it was not a written complaint. Our code makes a distinction between a verbal complaint, or it does not. Our code addresses a written complaint.
I read the code here to say demands the presence of any person whose testimony the board based its findings in. Are you telling me that per your code, a written complaint is not a form of testimony?
No, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying that the code addresses are written.
Mayor, point of order. The gentleman is addressing the council for what purpose? To attack our city manager, our process, or to argue or to discuss his request to delay the construction? Would the mayor please render a decision?
I think that Mr. Love should do his line of questioning regarding what's to be done with the building.
Thank you, Mayor.
I will proceed with that. The last point with respect to the visit that was requested by Tom Oxley, there is an email between Mr. Hannibas and myself in which Mr. Hannibas does admit that was a voluntary request, and we could pull the meeting minutes, but I did not agree to any specific time to bring him into the building, and I don't think that's decorous anyways with any particular construction project. For example, at the same time, the board's holding out, this is an unsafe structure, you're at the same time asking to go inside of it. So I've just confounded with that logic. And for that reason, I instead invited the board to visit the exterior, and I held out that invitation via email to Mr. Hannibas. And I would like to confirm whether that invitation was extended to all the members here at the council prior to this meeting.
Mayor, again, I raise a point of order. The gentleman was instructed to address the building and not address the process. And he continues to do so.
I would concur. It should be strictly with the building.
Yes, sir. The exterior of the building. May I ask the council, other than the pictures, have any members visited the exterior of the building since the last meeting?
I would, Mr. Love, I don't know what size community you reside in, but I would say with almost 100% assurity that every member of council since the last council meeting has gone by and looked at the structure. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, council, but it's very, very visible within our community.
Okay, very good. So I'll proceed to discuss the structure of the property and the property itself. And I would like a clarifying question here to be answered. Is the vote based simply on the structure of the property, or the vote in consideration of the council based on other extraneous things, such as how it is zoned, such as whether an invitation to view the interior was accepted, so on and so forth?
No,
I would like to respond to that. I think any vote that I would make would be based on the recommendation of the SIB board and nothing extemporaneous to that. And I would want that to be entered into the record as well. If that answered your question.
Yes, it did. I just wanted to point out I have limited ability based on order to respond to those other points made in this public meeting. Allow me to please proceed then related to the specifically the condition of the property. So since the last meeting, the most appropriate thing to do was to clean up the exterior, and that decision was made based specifically on the City of Oak Hill Code, which states, for example, as one of the criteria, whether or not a property is a blight, a nuisance to the community, whether it has objects on the premise that could be considered dangerous. And Mr. Hannibas already pointed out a stack of pallets, which was extremely dangerous, and I thank you for the credit. That was something that was removed primarily. That I think we used approximately 6 dumpsters at a cost of approximately, I believe, $600 per dumpster. So more or less about $4,000 was paid to remove the blight from the prior ownership, which has been there for decades. Now that doesn't include the labor costs as well. So when we reference these improvements as cosmetic, I would disagree. They're beyond cosmetic. Removing those objects was actually something that eliminated a safety hazard. So that was definitely a criteria in the code. Second to that, the next appropriate thing, and I'm not sure if I just want to refresh if everyone didn't read the letter, but I've been in the real estate business for 15 years and remodeling properties and going through the processes. The next appropriate thing is, of course, to identify the areas that need to be fixed and then to contract to get them fixed. So we have a West Virginia licensed inspection report that was submitted in advance of this meeting. And I would like to ask, since we're talking specifically about the condition of the property, have all the members been able to read that report? If not, I suggest it'd be advantageous to postpone the meeting or postpone this agenda item until next meeting so everyone has a chance to read that licensed inspection report.
That's in your correspondence.
That's
I would
correct.
simply say that we've each been emailed that information, and I personally have had opportunity to review it. And I would suspect, and I can't speak for my colleagues, that each member here does that prior to each meeting and has done so.
You are correct, Mr. Perry.
Okay, so under the assumption that everyone has read that inspection report that was duly provided in advance, the inspection report does to some degree differ from the Structural Inspection Board's report. Now, these aren't the same type of reports. Structural Inspection Board is more of a generic report that scores things based on a point system, whereas the licensed West Virginia building contractor structural report gets to the specific items. It goes into more detail. So that report clearly states this property is appropriate for repair. So we may not need to proceed further. I'd like to ask the board at this time, based on this conclusion of that report, in accordance with the code, it states if a property can be reasonably repaired, then there shall be issued an order of repair. So at this time, if I do not need to proceed if we can modify the order to an order of repair. If the council is not comfortable with that, we can proceed further. So I turn that over to you for that question.
Mr. Love, I have a couple questions, Mayor, if he would be willing to respond to.
All right.
Do you have a projected amount of investment dollars that you intend to invest in this facility?
We've already spent close to $10,000 without such a detailed plan. I'm waiting on more detailed specifics from the building contractor as to what we would do in which order. So I'm not far enough along. And the reason that is not due to negligence or anything like that. Like I said, we've only had this property in our possession for 8 months, during which we were in the heat of national pandemic. In fact, many building departments across the country were not even functioning. They weren't issuing permits. They were doing nothing. So I would say in the time frame that we've actually focused and started working on this property has been since the August report. So we're only the August structural inspection report. So we're only 60 days in. So I respect your question, but being 60 days in and spending the first 30 days of that having to scramble to clean the outside based on this condemnation report, I don't have a more detailed estimate yet.
The next question is, you are aware that this is zoned residential?
My understanding of the zoning is that it's a residential commercial, and my understanding of the zoning code is there are such things as non-conforming uses allowed, not just in Oak Hill, but I mean, this is a common thing in zoning. So for example, the storage units, which were previously owned by the same ownership and which now hold or the registered address of the business that this building to what this building once belonged, is also in the same zoning district. So the zoning question is a completely different chapter, not relative to the
So
condition of the property.
you realize once the building was vacated for 3 years that it goes back to being rezoned or zoned residential. You're aware of that?
I am aware that the city of Oak Hill has a board of zoning appeals consisting of 5 members. I don't believe either of them are on any of those 5 are on the council or present at this meeting. So my opinion or outlook is that these are independent people of an independent part of government that would issue an independent look and an independent determination as to what's permitted and what variances might be approved. That that's beyond the scope of this particular meeting.
And I concur with that. The other thing I would say is, to the best of my ability and recollection, and I could stand corrected, at no time was it said that you had owned the property for 3 years. The only discussion around the 3 years was that it had been vacated as a result of the fire for a 3-year period. And I want to be sure that's made very clear. And I don't know what.
Thank you.
And if
Thank
you're
you for
referring to
that
me, if you're, pardon?
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, thank you. So, Mayor, Mr. Manager, that's all I have. And I would ask that we proceed up, down, or.
I have a question for Mr. Love. Mr. Love, this is Danny Wright, the mayor. And my question is, I see what you're doing on the outside. It does look better. I have to admit it. I've driven by it several times. It looks better than it did. My question is, what is being done for the interior?
So we do have power, and we have been connecting enough shop lights for the contractor to be able to work in the interior. If you look at the inspection report, it identifies a handful of things, I believe 6 specific things. A couple of those things pertain to the exterior, and some might be eliminated, such as there's some loose block that might not be necessary. But as for the interior, there's a header beam. There is some damage in the fire area. And there's some other elements, and those are the things that we need to repair first and foremost on the interior before any interior cosmetics. But we do have an active power meter, and we are in the process of making sure we have enough lights to work. And I'd add one more thing there. There is still a lot of clutter in the interior that needs to be vacated per the contractor's demand before he could even get in there. And we have, and like I said in the last meeting, we have unloaded a lot of that interior, but we haven't completed that because we jumped to the exterior and started working on that.
And the original discussion was, or part of the presentation was, that it could be either storage or apartments, if I recall. And you can correct me if I'm not remembering correctly.
Oh, I did not mention apartments. I'm not sure how feasible that idea was. I mean, I was the one who mentioned storage, and I didn't mean storing food. I just meant just storing goods. It could be ATV tires. I'm not sure, but that
Warehousing. It may have been the literature. It may have been in the literature we were given that the business you were in was a residential. So that's the only reason I asked that question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor,
I'm sorry.
go ahead, Mr. Love. You have something to say.
Well, I just wanted to quickly, before turning it over to you, I do want to apologize for my tone. I do not mean to be argumentative and feisty. I just feel somewhat entrapped because when we did acquire this property, and it was purchased through a licensed West Virginia real estate broker, we did all due diligence. We were in touch with Bill Light, who said, the status was not condemned. I was in touch with, if it wasn't Rhonda, it was one of the others, and we paid a vacant property fee. We paid the taxes, and we were aware of the vacant property code that permitted properties to be vacant. So when this report came through, it was quite a bit of a shock and surprise as to it was completely different than our due diligence. We didn't come in to cause any trouble to the city or be a bad guy. We were here to do what we normally did, like I showed you in the original document, where we have a warehouse in Clarksburg that we did convert, and we brought it from a condemned status to a fully functional status.
Mr. Oxley.
Mayor, going back to the original recommendation from the Structural Inspection Board to demolish, and because we've not been provided any evidence to the contrary, I move that we accept the recommendation of the Structural Inspection Board.
And I second that motion, Mr. Oxley.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I have something.
That's true.
I guess I'm a little bit confused. I know he's working on the building. I haven't been in the building, I know that, but it seems like he's doing his due diligence to get the proper contractors and people involved in the building to fix it. So, could we not do an order of repair in that situation? That's up to you guys. I can vote either way. I'm just saying, like, it just seems like that may be the best course of action to me, since he is doing something. The building is going to be standing there either way. And he's doing work to the building. So, and he has contractors working on the building. He's only having 8 months, I guess. I guess that's true. So, and it was sitting there for 4 years or so before that. I guess I don't understand the rush of tearing it down. We give people a lot more time than this before to make the relevant changes and some buildings. That's just my opinion.
I would agree with Benitez. I would be more in favor of an order to repair. He has shown effort. He's putting money into it. Being that he has only had the property for 8 months, he seems to be making the appropriate efforts to fix it up. I would rather see it be kept than just torn down and be looking at a piece of vacant property. It could be beneficial to the city, providing a tenant.
Yeah, I would concur with that too, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Hazlett. Looks like the man is giving it all he has. He's working at it. The building's been sitting there empty for so long. And he is attempting to do something. And I keep going back to the man on Chestnut Avenue. The city kept giving him months and months, over a year, and it kept giving him months, and he still never came through though. But we have a precedent of letting people clean these places up because the Chestnut Avenue is a good example of one that's went on for months and months, for a year, over a year, I think, before they finally, he tore it down himself here just recently, didn't Mr. Hannibas? I don't think the man can get it all done in 60 days. But he is making an effort. He's not just letting it sit there. That's my opinion. Of course, I can't vote, but I still bring it up. I might in the time, well, I won't be tied yet.
Let me say this. I agree with Mr. What we've seen is cosmetic. And even with the cosmetology, for lack of better words, the Camco sign was painted over, gentlemen. Also, if you were going to construct a house, you would hire I would, makes sense to me, or even before I bought, I would check the structural soundness of it. And I've heard that discussed here before. You would get a contractor, you would get drawings or some estimates and so forth. And at this point, that's unavailable. And in 8 months, surely and certainly, that should and could have been achieved. So for those reasons, I will be voting in favor of Mr. Oxley's motion at the appropriate time. And in terms of a precedent setting, I don't think the council's may or not take opposition to you, because I highly respect you. It was a different council too that granted that over a period of time. And since I've been on here, fundamentally, we have supported this, supported the recommendation of SIB, who goes out and examines these, who puts time in, and the whole intent of many who run for the seats before I came on here was beautification for the city, and ridding ourselves of some of these structurally unsound properties. Do we have a structural engineer report on this building after the fire? Does he have a structural engineer report? I know it's not required, but there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts here that haven't been answered. Now, perhaps we could follow the same procedure we followed, and in the interim, he could provide additional information, and we could reverse our course as we've done in other situations.
Yeah, I think that's why I think I would favor the order of repair, is just because I don't know if we would ask anybody else for all those reports when they're making, I think if somebody painted their house, if somebody went out and painted their house, I mean, you look at Mr. Bragg, he just put a roof on his house and painted it, and we stopped the demolition on that place.
Right.
I mean, and we didn't ask them to come up with a contract and, I mean, even though it's not a lot of foot traffic in there, maybe not, but I don't think anybody can say that place is structurally sound. I mean.
Which
structurally
place is
sound.
that?
The gas station, when he put the, right up here, yeah.
You know, while I don't take deference to what you're saying, Tiz, each time I have asked those same questions. And I think it would be prudent on this council's part to begin requesting and requiring this information. You know, we've proved a lot of pig in the pokes without people giving cost estimates, construction figures, and contracts. So, you know, I think it'd be prudent in the future if we would give serious consideration to that too. So again, I will stick to my original convictions. And if no other council has anything to say, I'd move the previous question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll? Thank you.
I will do that. Counselor Oxley,
Yay.
Counselor Smallwood, yes. Counselor Jackson,
No.
Counselor Hazlet,
No.
Counselor Janey,
No.
Counselor Hodges,
No.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Clerk, announce the result, please.
The yays have 3 votes and the nays have 4 votes.
I declare the motion is not agreed to. Well, by a vote of 4-3. Anything else, Mr.?
So would the gentleman like to offer a motion that we introduce what'd you say, Mr. Jackson?
Order repair.
Order repair?
If you want,
I'll make the motion that we order to repair the
By
structure.
date certain and with certain questions that have been unanswered be supplied to us? Is that part of it, Steve?
I would.
I would support your motion as one.
been
of
properly
7.
moved and seconded. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll
Yes.
second that.
Second. Clerk, please call the roll on this one too, please.
Okay. Counselor
Why do I have to
Oxley.
be first?
What?
Why do I have to be
You want me to
first?
start over here?
Was that?
He wants to go over.
Counselor Janey,
Can you repeat?
The motion is to order to repair.
order to repair,
Order
as
to repair,
presented
yes,
by
I'm in
Mr.
favor of
Hazlett.
that.
but I
Yes.
don't know what the other stuff that
And to provide
Counselor Perry said.
documentation as to cost and a plan for that, a blueprint.
I would say by the next council meeting, he should be able to provide that.
Okay.
All right, let's go back then. The motion is, Mr. Hazel's motion is that the city council or the city of Oak Hill enter an order of repair to the building out on Gatewood Avenue. It was seconded by Mr. Perry and I think Mr. Benitez Jackson too, I think.
Yes.
That Mr. Love provide for us by the next meeting, December 13th, some sort of blueprint as to how he's going to repair and what he's going to do and that kind of thing. Is that correct?
And a cost estimate.
And cost estimate. All right. So that's the motion and it's been seconded. Now you may call the roll with Miss Janey here.
And my answer is yes, I agree.
Counselor Hodges,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Hazlet,
Yes.
Counselor Jackson,
Yes.
Counselor Smallwood,
Yes.
Counselor Oxley.
Yes.
I can ascertain that vote myself. 7-0, the motion's agreed to. Did Mr. Love hear all that? Did Mr. Love hear all that?
I think so. Mr. Love, do you? You understand?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll look for the order through email or standard mail.
Thank you.
It will come actually as an order, and I will send that by you email. I feel silly doing it, but I'm bound by law to advertise that as well. But you will get that in a newspaper, but you will get that by email, Mr. Love, okay?
Very good, Mr. Hannibal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to declare a 10-minute break,
Oh,
please.
great. I was going to ask for one.
Somebody had to take one.
Hey, buddy.
They're crazy. Look at this, she puts on these.
Now,
Yes.
Right here.
Well, the meeting back to order after a 10-minute break. We'll now move to unfinished business. Number one, ordinance approving submission of City of Oak Hill's Home Rule Plan Amendment Public Meeting, second reading. Mr. Annabas.
Okay, this is the second reading. I believe everybody's intimately familiar with this. This is the submission of the City of Oak Hill's Home Rule Plan. The amendment to our home rule application. Do you have anything to add to that?
We have to have the public hearing
Oh,
first.
I'm sorry. Mayor, you'll have to declare a public hearing for the home rule plan amendment.
Tonight or?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, right now. That we'll have a hearing on this subject in conjunction with the regular meeting of the city council.
Do you have any suggestions for a date?
This is it.
This is it.
Oh, this is it?
Right now.
I was
Been
thinking the
watching
same thing you
that.
were.
Yeah. So this is, so I declare this as the public hearing for this amendment.
Yes,
Mayor, is
sir.
there anyone here to speak to that?
See anybody?
Then I would move the previous question,
Okay.
or I would move the recommendation.
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion?
We're
Hazel.
recording everyone present and no one seems to have chosen to speak during the hearing.
Okay, so Mr. Perry made the motion. You
Mr. Hazlett
seconded.
second.
Hazlett.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion's agreed to, 7-0. Moves us, go
Can
ahead,
I,
go ahead.
can I, now I have to give you some bad news. We need to have a special meeting on Wednesday, right? Wednesday. To have the first reading of the sales and use tax ordinance again. So
This one.
if, yeah, I mean, we could do it
We
real
can do it.
quick by Zoom. Is
I
that
can do it by Zoom if you'd rather. It's
What
a,
time you suggest?
whatever time's good for you all, 6?
Steve's amazing.
Any Zoom be anytime.
Do it in the morning?
6,
we can do that. Let
we
me,
can't do it until after 11. Because we don't go to the home rule board until 10.
CGB has a Zoom meeting on Wednesday, 11:30. So
I've got doctor appointments. I won't be back till after 4.
And I have a,
5 o'clock.
I have a meeting on Wednesday too.
5 o'clock.
we have an Oak Hill Center board meeting too.
Right. 5? Can you all do 5?
5's fine.
Five's fine.
5 Wednesday.
I can-
I'll
You'll
still
send
say
us
It won't
out a-
take long, will it?
sends
No.
out a
No,
reminder.
all you have
3
to do
Okay.
is make a motion.
Is it gonna be by Zoom or gonna be
I
here?
will
Combination,
meet-
anybody can be here.
Either
fine.
or.
Come on
Yeah, if
by
you wanna be
want,
here.
or I will,
All the above.
I'll Zoom you in.
5 o'clock Wednesday, special meeting.
Right.
And we will be reminded of that by email.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay.
Is that also a meeting where the public can speak?
Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
it's a public meeting, so anyone's welcome to attend.
That's why I say you may want to make sure the public realizes that. so
Right, and they may attend in person.
And we'll have another another reading and public hearing too.
At the December meeting.
All right. Well, now move to number 2, bid opening for demolition of residential structure located 219 Highland Avenue, map 38, parcel 5, owned by Damon McDowell and Deanna Lawson. This has been a long ongoing project, hasn't it?
Yes, sir, it has. And we have arrived. And we had, I believe on this one, we had several letters of intent to bid. However, we received one bid. I just broke the seal on it. And it is from Empire Salvage.
Do they work the whole state like this?
Just Oak
We give them enough. They don't have to go anywhere
They
else.
don't have to go anywhere else.
They
just
they should
Oak
move their business though. Maybe
They
don't
in that
need to.
Camco building.
Hill. Yeah, they ought to get out of Bluefield.
They don't need to.
Yeah, they don't settle in Oak Hill.
They have a hazardous landfill, so they're set up good.
Oh, yeah.
Through Lust.
Mayor, the bid appears to be in order. The total estimated cost is $7,000.
I move we accept the bid.
I second.
I have one question. Is that the only bid?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right.
And it was, properly advertised. There was, we go through so many, I can't tell you for certainty, but I'm pretty sure there were several letters of intent that we received. And, but only received one sealed bid.
All right. The property moved in second. We accept the bid from Empire Salvage of Bluefield to demolish structure at 219 Highland Avenue. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to 7-0, which now moves us to number 3, Structural Inspection Board recommendation to demolish the structure located 526 Gatewood Road, map 13, parcel 139, owned by Property Traders, and we've already done that. We've already.
Yep.
Thank goodness. I didn't circle that one. Thank goodness. All right, number 4, examination of demolition reports, Old Minden Road, map 33, parcel 127, owned by Frederick Riggins and King Moses Riggins, and B 1016 Summerlee Avenue, map 16, parcel 50, owned by Arthur J. Atkins. Mr. Hannah-Bass.
Okay. I'm going to go through this quickly. This is a before shot, another before shot. This is what it looks like today.
That's the Old Minden Road.
That's the Old Minden Road,
All right.
1016 Summerlee Avenue. Overhead shot, before, this is what it looks like today. I think it's been, I think we took a photograph before they had the chance to seed and straw it, but my reports are here. I'm glad to bring them up on the screen if someone didn't have an opportunity to read it, but the report is in written format.
I move that we accept the examination of demolition reports as provided to us by the city manager.
I second.
We've properly moved in second. We accept reports for A and B, Old Minden Road and 1016 Summerlee Avenue. Any discussion? We'll vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion is agreed to 7-0, which moves us to number 5, consideration and adoption of a resolution to lay assessment lien on property located at 38 and 40 Poth Road, map 59E, parcels 45 and 46, owned by Deborah K. and Danny Thomas. Mr. Hannah-Bass.
Okay, Mayor, this is 2 structures side by side. This is a before shot and an after shot. And the other structure before and after. And the lien is in your packet. I'm glad to pull that up if you so desire.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
The property moved in second. Any discussion?
Bill, is this the house where the ladies, a couple ladies came in talking about they couldn't get to it?
No.
Okay.
No, this
It's up
is-
here on Main Street.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Any more discussion? We'll vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion is agreed to 7-0. I have a question, Mr. Hannah-Bass, on these properties,
Yes,
like
sir.
Old Minden Road and Summerlee Avenue and these places. Do you have any idea, you may not know this, do you have any idea of how many people come by and buy these and pay off the lien? I mean, do we have any kind of idea who actually reclaims this and does something with it?
I suspect that activity to be improved in the future, but so far, no. What happens a lot of times, they sell for back taxes. The folks quit paying taxes on them. They become delinquent. Somebody buys them, typically a land shark, is what my nickname for them is, buys them. And then they try to resell it, but banks do not like to loan very much money on property that has been tax delinquent, fearful that, the long lost cousin's going to show up. So it's hard to get a bank loan on these. And I think that's a hindrance because of the financial situation.
Councilman Smallwood made a comment some meetings ago, which I think is worthy of some exploration. He made the comment that is there, maybe, I guess we have to approach the legislature, some way that the city, after they place these liens, And after you tear these places down, place these liens, the city cannot in some way take ownership of these properties until we get our money back. Or is it, you brought that up, Mr. Smallwood,
Right.
a couple of meetings ago, and do you see any move in that direction where for towns and cities can reclaim some of this financially?
I think that's possible. I believe it is.
I think Tom.
Yeah,
Some of it, you might not want, some it's in a flood zone situation like that, but some of it, there's a really nice lot on Summerlee Avenue that I think could be repurposed. Would make a nice, with the stone wall in front of it. I don't know if you know where I'm talking about or not, but.
I think the legislature is going to try to move forward this session with some effort to give standing to municipalities on liens. Right now, we have none. When we go to the courthouse, they sell on courthouse steps and the liens are paid off. They can forget municipalities. I think Ryan Weld,
Doesn't Huntington do this already?
they have a land reuse bank.
I
I'm
thought
not
so.
sure how that works. I really don't.
Because I remember they brought that up when I was in the legislature. We passed something to allow them to do that because they were having a real problem like we're having.
But I agree with
So you might talk to Huntington.
Charles said, there ought to be some way we recoup something.
Yeah.
We can't continue that unless there's a pocket full of money for demolition. We just can't continue doing this
Yeah.
every year.
I agree.
Okay, where are we at? Did you?
I think we're down
Number
to
six.
number 6.
Okay.
A consideration and adoption of a resolution of the city to demolish a structure located at 1119 Minden Road, map 27, parcel 18, owned by Ace Adventure Resort. Mr. Hannah Bass.
Okay, this is a house, second house on the left. As you enter the bottom, after you get to the bottom of the hill in Minden, it's been burned. Ace owns it. I had a conversation with them today and they said they will pay an invoice. They're gonna let us tear it down, but they told me verbally that they would pay the invoice when we sent it to them.
Nice.
So get some money back there.
So this is a resolution to allow us to demolish the structure.
I'll make a motion for that.
I'll second.
Property moved and seconded that the adopt a resolution for the city to demolish structure at 1119 Minden Road owned by Ace. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is agreed to 7-0. Number 7, Planning Commission recommendation to amend the Oak Hill Municipal Code 15.38.240, bed and breakfast inns, short-term lodging rentals and vacation rentals, second reading. Mr. Hannah.
Okay, this is, if you'll recall, this is where currently the fire department is involved in inspection of these, and this would be removing that verbiage from the amendment.
I make a motion, we accept this as a second reading of the amendment.
I'll second it.
Property moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion's agreed to 7-0. Number 8, the Crown Act ordinance, second reading. Mr. Hannah.
Okay, we've kicked this around a little bit, and this will be the second reading of the Crown Act. And does everybody understand where we're at on this?
As I recall, we made a motion to have the first reading so we could have a second reading.
But we didn't have any action.
But we still don't know what we're going to do with it if we pass it. Is that correct? Am I?
With the enforcement phase of it?
Yeah, who would enforce?
See, they have a Human Rights Commission in Beckley. That's how they handle it. I'm fairly certain.
Would the
We
Human
don't
Rights
have to
Commission in Charleston have standing over this? Human Rights Commission in Charleston.
Yeah, statewide,
Yeah.
yeah. But the legislature didn't pass anything. So I don't know.
For the Crown Act period. Now,
Right.
if I were in another protected class, they would have jurisdiction, but not over the discrimination because of my hairstyle.
Mhm.
or lack thereof.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I would respect the opinion of Mr. Smallwood on this because I think he requested this. Is that correct? I would respect his opinion at this point.
What do you want?
What do you want to do?
If we have no way of to enforce it.
You want to table it to a date certain?
Let's take.
What?
If that's a motion.
So
I'll sec-
what?
I'll second
For the
Mr.
notice
Smallwood's
or?
motion.
Yeah.
No action?
So there is a motion to table the Crown Act second reading. Is there, and there was a second,
I will
wasn't there?
second.
Probably moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Mr. Hannibus, you said Oak Hill has no human rights commission. Do you think it's something we ought to look at?
Well, we could. I mean, it's a pretty long process to develop and administer Human Rights Commission.
Well, I just think this is an example right here on the crown ordinance that we have been talking about. And we get down to the second reading and we figure out, well, I think we already figured it out earlier. Mr. Oxley brought up, there's not no way to enforce the act. And I think it's a necessary ordinance, but it's held in limbo because no enforcement tool to go with it. That's the reason I ask about a Human Rights Commission. Beckley's got one, Charleston, Huntington, probably most towns, cities do. Do any in Fayette County have human rights? I don't think so, do they?
No, sir. I think there's not, probably Beckley, West Virginia is the smallest municipality in the state, I'm guessing. I could be wrong, but I'm guessing Beckley is about the smallest municipality in the state of West Virginia that has a Human Rights Commission.
How about Bluefield? They have one?
Not that I'm aware of.
And they have a dynamics unlike we have.
Right.
And if I understood Mr. Hannibus correct, those issues that would come under their jurisdiction could be handled by the state Human Rights Commission. If I heard that correctly.
By and large, but the Crown Act is one that's
Right,
not
could
covered
not
by
be,
the
but if
state.
you talk
Right,
about protected classes and so forth, it would come under the state.
right.
So I really don't see the necessity to create another layer of bureaucracy or another body or commission or myself. And again, I reluctantly take issue with the mayor, but I really don't.
You know, as much as we'd like to be helpful and maybe be proactive in this matter, you know, it concerns me that our school board has no regulations dealing with this. This is where the problem was first noticed. And to me, it's where it should be dealt with. I can't see an adult person being overly burdened by someone making a comment about their hair. I can see a student, particularly when their peers find fault with it. I mean, it's just, if we're going to do something, we need to do it in the best interest of the victim. That's the proper term. So maybe we need to look at Beckley, see how they put theirs into place. I mean, they're our closest, plus we share a city attorney with them.
Right.
I think he could guide us if that's something we want to do.
Have we reached out to Bill Fowle on this?
I have, I talked to him about a Human Rights Commission and he told me, he said, well, he says the largest section of our code by far. And he said that this was some months ago when this came up, 2-3 months ago, 4 months ago. And he said that that you have to set up a hearing process for those aggrieved. And at that time, there had never been a case come before the Human Rights Commission. Now, I'm not absolutely sure if they've had one handled at the state level or not, but I don't think they have ever utilized their Human Rights Commission. But I can, what about this? What about if I obtain that section of the codified ordinances of the city of Beckley and email them out? It's going to be a huge document. I'll email the document out to everybody, and let me make a note or I won't. And then we can all get educated a little bit on it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Thank you, Bill.
Sounds
Right
good.
plan.
Moves us to number 9, Coordinator of Economic Development, Mr. Hannah.
Okay, just one moment. Okay. The Coordinator of Economic Development, I'm in the process of vetting resumes and actively interviewing for this position, and that's out of respect for those interviewing. I don't want to say a whole lot more at this time about it.
So what's the motion?
How many persons have you interviewed or do you intend to interview?
I'm in, well, and that's sort of like some of the stuff I'd
Rather not say?
really rather not
Okay.
say, Mr. Perry, and I'm
That's fine.
sorry.
No, that's
yeah.
fine.
If we are not successful in finding a candidate, I would like to see us explore changing this from economic development to community and economic development.
They're almost hand in hand. Matter of fact, I've left it in my car, but I have one from City of Martinsburg, and that's what they call theirs. They hired a guy out of DC.
Community development / economic development.
Yeah, I mean,
And
they're not in opposition to each other. for
Right,
sure.
they work hand in hand. I mean, I've looked at what State University used to get, who they hired down in Montgomery, pretty much goes almost verbatim with almost everything we use for the city of Oak Hill for the economic development person. There's a few things that vary.
Does Montgomery have one?
They do, she's a State University extension agent. And she partnered, so she's Montgomery, Smithers. Yeah.
And I think that with a coordinator of economic development in Oak Hill, whether you want to admit it or not, and whether it's even not a part of their title, they will be, in addition to that, a community development person.
So if we change the title, would we change the
Job description.
job description?
Changes a little bit.
Not-
Because it does,
Not tremendously, though.
no, not a
Right.
lot.
Right.
I don't see a major issue with it myself. But that is if you don't bring us forth a recommendation.
So what's the motion here for?
I would ask council to
Table.
table, yeah, I believe this was put on, requested to be put on last month during the,
Yeah, just keep us posted how you doing. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to table.
Second.
Proper moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion's agreed to 7-0. Vendors policy, Mr. Hannah Bass.
okay. The vendor committee met. Ms. Shaney is a member of that committee, and the mayor is, and I'm leaving anybody out. But anyway, we met, discussed a lot of issues. I have a draft in your packet. I don't know if everybody got an opportunity to review that. And I said during the meeting, I said, council wants this as simple as possible. And I respect that and brought it up in the meeting. And I think one of the issues with it was like the town of Fayetteville. We had an example of that. I like it. It's nice, clear and concise. There's a few things that aren't in it, like an appeal, an appeal procedure if a decision is made about a particular vendor. And I think that needs to be in there. I think anything, the city does needs to have an appeal process with it. So there is a document, and actually one thing we have to do is to glean some of the real simple common sense things out of the Fayetteville ordinance and see if we want to add those. Ms. Janey, I think you had made the recommendation that we would be complete in January with it. Yep. So
Give
that's where,
everyone an opportunity to look at it.
yeah, that's where we stand now. And I did, and I haven't talked to you since the meeting, Diane, about it, but there is a pretty good draft in your packet now. So does anybody have any question about that?
That includes the appeal process and everything you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Do you have people that represent the vendor and people that represent a brick and mortar business in Oak Hill, right?
We do. However, Kevin Willis was the brick and mortar representative. He did not attend the last meeting, but he has actively participated before. And we have a host of people like Diane Janey that are very familiar with street vendors, and Michelle and Mad Concessions.
Michelle Brooks.
Yeah. And they're very good, very, very reasonable folks. And so
Because they show the pros and cons themselves.
yeah.
And they've been doing it quite a while. They do a good job too.
And I
I
think.
move we table this until the January meeting.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Properly moved and seconded. We table this vendors policy to January 2022. Any discussion? It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion's agreed to, 7-0. Now we're back to the foul ordinance.
I thought we made a motion on this.
I thought this was a second reading.
I think it was.
I think it is too. I think it's an error that it's not.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we accept this as the second reading of the foul ordinance.
I second.
It's properly moved and seconded that we take a look at these chickens again, the foul ordinance on second reading. All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion's agreed to, 7-0, which moves us to number 12, appointment to the building commission. Mr. Hannah-Bass.
Okay, we have a vacancy on the building commission, and Mr. Perry actually would like to nominate a person that I would concur is an excellent choice. Mr. Perry I'll give you the honor to.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. I would nominate William Bill Laird IV.
I'll second your nomination.
Properly moved and seconded that Bill Laird be appointed to the Oak Hill Building Commission. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion's agreed to, 7-0, which moves us to new business. Appointment to the Planning Commission, Mr. Hannah-Bass.
Yes, sir, and I'd like to take a moment and pause. The fire chief that's present this evening, Mr. Richardson, lost a brother, Steve. I can tell you from experience what it means to lose a brother. And Steve served on the Planning Commission for the city of Oak Hill. This item doesn't necessarily have to be voted on this evening, but we move on in life, and Chief, I'm extremely sorry for your loss. And I would ask Mayor that we also have a moment of silence.
So ordered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Is there any nomination to the planning commission?
Mayor, I'd like to also suggest and ask that the city manager and yourself write a letter to the widow of Steve expressing our appreciation for his service and condolences to the widow, Miss Linda Richardson.
All right. We'll do that.
I would recommend Matt Wimber.
Matt Winder's been nominated to the planning commission. Is there a second?
Is he willing to serve?
Pardon?
Is he willing to serve?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Probably moved in second that Matthew Winder be appointed to the planning commission. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? No. Employee evaluations, Mr. Hannah.
Okay, these are employee evaluations, as I understand, for the chief of police, the city manager, and the clerk / treasurer of the city of Oak Hill. And the proposed documents of evaluation are in your packet, and of course, how that is conducted, or when and where and how and all that is entirely up to city council.
Yeah,
I'll move the acceptance of the evaluation instruments and recommend that we begin this process July 1 of 22.
and what frequency?
Pardon?
What frequency? Annually or?
Annually.
I'll second the motion.
Properly moved and seconded that we accept the employee evaluations as presented to go into effect July 1, 2022, and to be held thereafter annually. Any discussion? Oh, we've had the motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing that we vote the motion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion's agreed to, which brings us down to 16, Christian Heritage Week proclamation. Mayoral proclamation in harmony with Christian Heritage Week in West Virginia, November 21st through 27th, 2021, as proclaimed by Governor Jim Justice. Whereas Thanksgiving week marks the 30th consecutive Christian Heritage Week in West Virginia, thus continuing a tradition of annual proclamations beginning with Governor Gaston Caperton in 1993 through 1996, and continued by Governor Cecil Underwood from 1997 through 2000, Governor Bob Wise from 2001 through 2004, Governor Joe Manchin from 2005 to 2010, and Governor Earl Ray Tomlin from 2011 to 2016, and Governor Jim Justice in 2017 through 2021. And whereas 229 mayors from 139 cities, towns, and villages throughout the state of West Virginia have proclaimed Christian Heritage Week since 2001. And whereas local churches are encouraged to participate with relevant Sunday school lessons, sermons, patriotic song services, youth programs, and prayer meetings. Now, therefore, let it be known that I, Daniel E. Wright, Mayor of the City of Oak Hill, in conjunction with the Oak Hill City Council, do hereby proclaim November 21 through 27th, 2021, Thanksgiving week, as Christian Heritage Week in the city of Oak Hill, West Virginia, and I invite all citizens to join me in this observance, each in their own way. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and fixed my signature on this, the 8th day of November, 2021, in the city of Oak Hill, the county of Fayette, and in the great state of West Virginia. Daniel E. Wright, Mayor.
Mayor, who gets copies of this?
This came from this organization requesting it, and they sent a template. And so I guess it goes back to to that organization that requested it.
And that was,
That is I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure who
that
gets
was
it
from.
back.
could we see that the Oak Hill Ministerial Association gets a copy of that prior to their community service?
That's a good idea. Yeah, we could do that. There's a couple of things here.
I think,
Who would I send it to?
I think that's
Sam
Sam
Calloway.
Calloway, correct? Bishop Calloway.
Yeah, I think Sam Calloway is the president of the ministerial, because I talked to him here not long ago, and I think he is the president, Bishop Calloway at the Spirit and Truth Ministries here on Main Street.
And I'll try to encourage them to read that at the community service.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Is community service the
The
Sunday
Calvary,
before
huh?
Thanksgiving?
Pardon?
Is it Sunday before Thanksgiving or when?
Wednesday.
I think it's 21st. I think you're right, Tom,
I think
It's gonna be where?
at Calvary.
Calvary Baptist Church,
And
Um,
Jones Avenue minister is preaching.
Reverend Hicks.
Yes, and the tabernacle will be providing the music.
Reverend Schmuck.
Right.
I tell you what, Mr. Perry, since you brought this up, if you want, I can attend and I can just read this to the congregation.
I think that would be excellent.
If you want to do that.
I think that'd
I
be
will.
excellent.
I'll do that. And we can present it to the minister there and who can record it wherever they want.
Sounds good.
Will they
Okay.
let Presbyterians in there, David? Do you
Pardon?
know? Will they let Presbyterians in there? I mean, will
You'll
they
have
check
to,
them
you'll
at
have
the
to ask the
door?
mayor that question.
Well, Presbyterians are all going to heaven. I know that.
They're, what is it? Not preordained, but what are they?
Predestined.
Predestined.
Predestined. Yes, we're all predestined. That's right.
Is that it?
Any other, I'm in,
Mhm.
I'm the only Presbyterian here. Only Presbyterian. We've been Presbyterians forever.
Accept the proclamation.
Yes, I'll present it at the, Mr. Perry, if you're going, if it's your minister, will there be a place on the program for me to?
I'll see that
announce to
happen.
come up there and do that?
I will see that happen.
And then I'll just leave a copy of this with your minister.
Sam Calloway.
Well, will he be there?
Yeah. I'd
Okay,
say.
well, I'll leave it
I'll
up.
talk to Sam to get the information.
Okay, he
for
may
you.
want to come up then and I'll
Yes.
hand it to him.
I think that'd be the
Okay,
best.
that's good. That's a good idea. Good idea. All right, brings me to 18.
Mayor, this is the VOAD owns two parcels in Oak Hill, 232 Euler Avenue and 366 Valley Street. They contacted me and everybody's familiar with at least one of these. I'll show you a picture of it. This is the one on Euler Avenue. They've also agreed to tear this structure down right here, but they would like to convey this parcel plus one on Valley Street. And here's a couple of photos of it. And the lady from VOAD's very, very nice, very polite. And she offered that to the city of Oak Hill. And they have deemed that you cannot build a structure on the property. And so I asked her very politely, why would the city want it? We mow a lot of property as it is. And she said, well, you can sell it in 3 years. You'll be eligible to sell it. And I said, well, I wouldn't want to sell it to somebody that can't do anything with it. And she said, well, sometimes the neighboring property owner will want to buy it. But, and I told her, I said, well, I don't know what to tell you. I said, and ultimately that would be council's decision anyway to accept property. So I bring it before you. It's a little bit of a perplexing problem, but, I think most of us have seen this property during heavy rain events on Euler Avenue. The condition of the water there. And you can see this property, even in a fairly dry period we're in.
What does VOAD? What's that mean? You knew I was going to ask.
Yeah. I have seen it lately. I can't remember what it is.
I'm just curious.
I can't remember. It was the RISE program that rebuilt structures after the 2016 flood. That's part of
Part
BOAG.
of, okay.
And they had actually planned to demolish these two structures and build back there. And when they got into it, they said, well, you can't build a house here. So they're going to relocate these folks somewhere else, but
They can't relocate them until the property is.
that's true too.
Conveyed.
We're holding them up for that. Now,
So, go ahead.
No.
So if these properties, well, and I see a building on the back of that, are they gonna take that structure down also?
I'm not sure about that, Chris. I didn't have a conversation with them about that structure. I'm sorry.
Okay, so these properties still flood, right?
Oh, yeah.
So are these properties, what are those tanks that you can put underground to catch water? What are those called?
Like
You know
a
what I'm
storm
talking about?
retention tank.
Yeah. Are these properties that if we took ownership of them, and could we do that? I don't know how expensive that is, but is that properties we could do that with?
You know, one of them, and I don't know the cost. I've never had a project to build one of those, but the problem with this property where the photographs on the screen right now is that those stormwater tanks are designed to fill up with water and slowly drain back down. This one's going to fill up with water
Won't
and
have time to drain.
not drain. Now the one on Euler Avenue, that's a potential storm retention situation.
Yeah, plus the creek, plus the culvert that goes under Euler there. It's not located properly. It has to build up before the water flows through it. So
Which we're in the process of having that dredged, for lack of better words, right?
I'm sorry.
Which we're in the process of having that dredged, for lack of better words.
Right.
Bill, let me ask you a question. If we take it, for example, John Pino owns to the left of that on Euler, and the guy to the right in the Dan Blizzard's old home place owns to the right. Is there a set amount we would have to sell it
I don't think so.
so we could sell it for anything?
No, I think it would be up to, we have to auction it off, so we would auction it to the highest bidder.
Okay, so when I asked for this to be graded, the building, originally they agreed to tear it down if they built the house. And there was an issue about how far off the property line to build. With that said, neither one of them were willing to tear it down, Pino or the other.
Right.
So with a quid pro, and again, coming back to the SIB board, it didn't grade out to be torn down.
Right.
But it is a eyesore. It's unsafe. It's, I'd still like to see the building torn down, but that's not going to happen. So I would like to see us take the Euler Avenue property only because of the quid pro that BOAD will take the building down, right?
They told you and I
They
that.
told you and I that, yes. And that's, I would say, take it with the conditions that they raise that building,
Okay.
realizing it's got a potential liability. But I'd say John or the guy next door probably would be interested in securing that property.
they may want it just to keep it vacant.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I agree. I
But
agree.
now the other property, I wouldn't,
You put that in form of a motion, I'll say.
I would move that we agree to accept the property on Euler Avenue based on the condition that BOAD will raise that unsightly structure,
I will second that motion.
But not the other two.
but not
right?
the other. No, not the Valley Street.
So did you say that they don't relocate homeowners if we don't take ownership of the property?
Right.
That's right.
So what happens to the homeowners?
I have no idea. They can't close the project out. They can't continue until they convey this property.
That's why is there a 3-year lapse
That's-
when you can sell it?
That's one of their regulations that they informed me of, that we would be permitted to sell. They evidently encumber the deed somehow. that stipulates.
But it would have to be sold at auction. It can't just be sold to John or the other neighbor.
No, that's state code, that anytime we liquidate property, we or the mayor or I or whoever.
Even if it's VOAD property.
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I've made the motion. I'll move the previous question.
All right, there's a motion and a second that we acquire only the property through VOAD on Euler Avenue. With the stipulation, they tear down the outbuilding. Any discussion? Hearing now, we vote the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to 7-0, which now brings us to 19, consideration to appoint BB&T as investment agent, Mr. Hannibal.
Okay, and this is in the Treasurer's bailiwick, and I'll let her explain this.
Yeah, and that should say Truist and not
Oh,
BB&T.
that's true.
Um,
Is that their new name?
That's their new name, and that's why we have to have a new resolution or whatever. I think the resolution's in the packet. We have some investment accounts there, and we need to do this in order. I mean, it just says that Bill and I are the ones that can take the money out or transfer it. Well, not, it's Bill and, yeah, we both have to do it. It can't just be one of us. And because from time to time, we need to draw some money out of those accounts, like for our sanitary board. So that's what that is. They needed a new updated resolution
We're
since
not
they
changing any
were
circumstances, just
Truist.
changing because of true.
Yes.
I make a motion that we appoint BB&T as investment agent for those accounts.
Truist.
Truist.
I'll second the motion on Truist.
Properly moved and seconded. Consider to appoint Truist as investment agent with an updated resolution. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion's agreed to 7-0, which brings us down to number 21, which is the Fayette County Fire Coordinator discussion on fire levy.
And I don't believe Joe Christ is the coordinator, and Mr. Christ is obviously not here, and
I'd like to make one comment. I requested this be put on the agenda. And the reason I did is we receive monies through the Fire Association in addition to the levy. And proportionally to our population and the amount of taxes collected from Oak Hill, we're not getting a fair portion. Now, he'll say others aren't getting as much or so forth, but in relation to the number of calls, in relation to the number of trucks, in relation to the number of services, I'd like to have some idea as to what formula, how this is arrived at, and I think it would be proper for council to know that. So that's why I asked that be put on there. And I asked that we request Joe to be here again.
Yeah, that Tim can speak to this. We've addressed that over the years.
Really?
A couple of times and got improvements to it, but it's still, like you said, considering our population, taxes paid, and what the return is, you're right.
Was Joe invited to this meeting tonight?
Joe was invited to the meeting. Mr. Hannibal did when I requested it be put on the agenda. And I think he said that he wasn't prepared.
Right.
So, and whatever you all think, in the letter, you may give him an indication as to what we want to discuss. Maybe that make him.
right, I was thinking that. Well,
When is that revisited?
The levy or the yearly, isn't it? 4 year, 5 years.
I'd like to speak to that, if you don't mind, just to give the council a full view of what all transpires. Tom's very familiar with this because we've breached this subject years ago when Tom was city manager in regard to distribution of funding. Years ago, as a lowly fireman, I posed the question of how was the formula derived? Was it done by population? Was it done by your activity? Was it done by square mileage in your fire service district? Could never get an answer, a solid answer of here is the formula that's used. Well, we continued on. We wanted to be part of this organization. We have received improvements of funding throughout the years from levy to levy. We do receive a lot of supplemental assets to the fire service that is valuable. It is costly. For instance, now at this time, we have pump testing done on all our engines. We have our self-contained breathing apparatus testing done. These are all done annually. We have our truck maintenance done, not through our city garage or at our city garage cost, but it's done through a contracted fire service company that comes in and does these things for us. That's some of the items that we see that we receive through that. And it is valuable that we receive those items. I'm guessing that what Mr. Perry has requested, this is some of the things that dollar-wise, probably Mr. Chris will bring forward. You know, our working relationship with every fire department in the county, but especially our mutual aid departments, which are primarily Luke Creek, Fayetteville, Mount Hope, that it's a working relationship that's been very positive over the years. And Bill and I have had discussions as well as what I had with 20 years ago in regard to that being an asset. I don't disagree with the questions that you would have in regard to funding. You know, we have the new items that you're aware of, a fire training facility, and it's really in its infancy. That the Fire Association acquired the property on Golly Mountain where the old golf course was. There's probably been $700,000 spent there in regard to a new training facility that it's just in its infancy, but it will be one of the state-of-the-art training facilities in West Virginia.
Is it out of levy money?
Yes, it is. So there's a lot of pluses to that. And I refer to Tom and Bill as being the bean counters in regard to the expenditures we have, the assets, the money we put into our fire service. And some of that does roll out of our municipality, but we do receive reciprocation from other departments. So it's a complex question. It's not easily answered, but we do have a lot of assets from the Fire Association that you might not see in true dollars. But for instance, the Fire Association just recently bought water rescue equipment for 5 fire departments. That ran into a significant amount of money. We did receive equipment to accommodate 7 firefighters. We received a new boat on top of the boat we have now. So there are expenditures that are being done through
So
that.
Chief, are you saying we were better off not to start this hornet's nest and would rather we not?
I would ask him to come and give a report in regard to due diligence of the Fire Association, what's distributed to them. Just let them know that you're looking at this.
Yeah, I don't think it hurts to revisit.
No,
this
I
thing
don't
once
think
in a
it
while.
is. And like I say,
If
this is,
nothing else, make us aware.
yeah, right. And you know, Tom, how many years ago did we breach the subject with them? 15 years ago?
Yeah, we
20?
had to threaten John Witt with bodily harm.
Yeah, yeah. So I appreciate your focus on this, and I think we've got a good thing going there, but I would recommend we let them know that we're watching carefully what transpires and what's distributed.
So would you work with Bill in writing this letter to identify what we would be asking of him?
Sure, be glad to.
Is that all right with you?
Yes,
Bill? Would that help you?
Sure.
But just some of those items that I
Right.
just mentioned
There's-
tonight, that, it's things that the layperson wouldn't see that the fire service receives, but it has worked for us for quite some time, and it has been a savings in regard to our city budget on a lot of high-end maintenance. So,
Well,
yes.
one of the things too, this is a little bit touchy subject, but needs to be talked about. There, within the fire levy, there are eligible expenses to expend fire levy funds on. And if it's not an eligible expense, thou shalt not take fire levy money and spend it. And one of the important things, our department is classified as a volunteer fire department, but we get per call pay for each fireman. And that is not an eligible expense through the fire levy. And the chief of the fire department will tell you it's a wise decision. It's an incentive. It keeps his numbers up and all those kind of things. But the taxpayer within the city limits of Oak Hill pays that.
Subsidized.
Pays it, doesn't subsidize it,
Okay.
pays 100%. So that when the chief's fire department responds to a house fire, for instance, at Hilltop, those firemen are paid a per call, but it's paid by the residents of Oak Hill. And I don't think it's equitable. Now, I'm not saying that every fire department has to pay a per call, but I think every fire department should have the right, if they so choose, to pay a per call fee for each fireman. And as it currently is, it's not a little bit of money, it's a lot of money.
So who rendered that decision? Is it code or is that?
It's in the fire levy.
Okay, that's what
It's in the fire levy. And
It's no different, David, than the guidelines that DeMita has to use for expenditures under state code.
Gotcha.
It's primarily the same.
Years ago, we looked at, did a little tabletop calculation that our city and its residents would be better off if we had our own fire department just within the city and the residents paid for it. However, those outlying communities would be left out in the cold. So it's a
mutual.
It's a mutual thing, and it's what you do to keep everything going.
So with the levy, what is unencumbered or unassigned once the monies are distributed? I like to know that. What's sitting over there that they have control over that they don't allocate? Is that?
And that, Mr. Perry, it's the final decision on that is made by the county commission. It's not like the Fayette County Fire Association has so many tax dollars that flows to them and without oversight. There's a lot of oversight with that. The Fire Association has been saving money for probably 20 years, seeking to buy a location where they could develop their training center as you now see it. And they won the lottery. The Elkim plant literally gave them that property on Dolly Mountain with the purpose and intent of establishing this training center for Fayette County. So they used the money that they had saved for years, and I'm part of it. I say they, but it's the Fire Association, to buy a state-of-the-art live burn training center for that location. That's the crown jewel of that training center. Even though you have over 100 acres to develop, there's going to be water rescue training, MVA training, rural rescue training. There's going to be so many things that are going to be developed over the years with that. So it's structured well, but I agree with Mr. Perry to create a strategy and let Joe Chris come in to the council and explain, exactly what the strategy is for that operation. And if you do that, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be a whole lot better working relationship than anybody has with the county commission this time. It's a train wreck over there.
Thank you, Chief. So I would ask that we proceed with the letter to Joe to come to respond to the issues or questions you have in the letter, Bill, that you jointly developed with Tim. If no one objects.
No objection.
Okay.
Because I'm old.
Knowledge, knowledge.
Knowledge, institutional knowledge.
As I'm on E
I'm
over here.
supposed to get
Hey,
some knowledge soon. It's
I'm
in the
running on,
mail.
I'm running on E over here. We're going to speed this meeting up.
Okay, so we're not gonna take any action there, Mayor.
Doesn't look like they are. There's, I think the general consensus is that you send a letter inviting him back with, to give us more detail at the next meeting or whenever he can show up. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Number 22, use of American Rescue Plan funds, Mr. Hannibal.
Okay, this is referred to as a ARPA funding. And it is I want to stress, first of all, it is a lot of money by anybody's standards. It's our first half was $1.7 million. And it's created, rightfully so, quite the buzz as to how it would be spent. And these funds will be budgeted by City Council. I want to make that statement first of all, and not to discredit how much money it is. It's a lot of money, but we currently have an annual budget of over $4 million, and it's been insinuated that we're going to spend the ARPA funding willy-nilly, and I don't think this or any other council I've witnessed has allowed the expenditure of money willy-nilly. We do pretty good job. But having said that, and we have how long to spend it? 3 years, 4 years?
4 years.
4 years. So, that's another important fact. But having said that, it's on the agenda for us to discuss, and we had mentioned parks, economic development, and infrastructure as some of the sensible things to spend these funds on. But this is going to be your all's decision, and like I say, I think the city of Oak Hill's done pretty doggone well.
Even though I know we have a while, I'd still like to see us have a survey up on the website for the public to fill out and give input. And I think I've sent you some examples that we could go off of, just general questions, and start to get public input, since we do have a while to spend it, and see where where everybody stands with it.
I agree. I think a survey initially to get people thinking, follow that up with public meeting or two.
Yeah.
And, you're going to get a lot of, I hate to use this word, useless suggestions. But you're also going to get some that might have merit.
Right.
Plus, we have to have certain guidelines as to how we spend it. But yeah, I think it's planning, finally picking some items that you want to do and prioritize them, put costs to them, then come up with a long-range plan how to spend it. Like you said, you got 1.7 already. You get the other half 2 years from now,
No, next
Next
summer.
year.
next summer. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've talked about just in general is our, the New River Gorge National Preserve, or whatever it's called now, and the need for more recreational type activities or improvements to what we have. Needleside being one of them. I'm not a rock climber of any means. Matter of fact, I've made one trip across that property and probably won't go back. I'm too out of balance. Yeah, Charles. But I think we need to look in directions like that. But I think we need to invite the public, because no matter what you end up spending on, you're going to have rocks thrown at you for spending it unwisely. But if you do invite them once or twice, I think that'll alleviate some of that problem. That's just, Transparency, right?
Yeah.
And remember though, for right now, unless the treasury lightens up, which they think they will, it's only COVID related and infrastructure. Those are the only things that you can spend it on. Now, I mean, there's things you can make COVID related, maybe.
Well,
you know,
infrastructure
you
is
have to
not
be
bad. I mean,
creative, but-
improvements to our park, that's infrastructure, right?
Well, they were talking sewer
Sewer.
and stormwater.
Who was?
No.
Well, we could
Yeah,
put out a
sewer and
general
stormwater.
survey and even if things don't necessarily apply to that specific funding, it would give us an idea of what our
Right.
community would like to see happen in our community.
What they're
Mm.
looking for.
Yeah. Mhm.
I would like to see Demita give us a timeline. I agree with Tom and I agree with Krista. But she's closer to this and haste makes waste. And I agree with public input and I definitely agree with the transparency. I agree with the public input, whether it be survey or survey in town meeting. But I'd like to see Demita give us a timeline as what she would suggest as to how we approach this, since she would be working with it and Bill.
Right.
You understand? Am I making
Right,
sense?
To come up with the plan to eventually spend it for those.
Well, yeah,
Well-
but when did she feel we ought to have a public meeting, a survey, when to release these things? Because she's still learning.
Yeah, well, there are people in Washington that are still.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
particularly,
trouble.
she said they're
Yeah.
changing on
They're
this
gonna tell the auditors
before we
something,
obligate
maybe.
it. But I agree, we need to hear from the public. We've
If
heard
we
that from
can do
Kevin and
the-
other people here.
If we can do the survey without mentioning ARPA funding, just like,
I think so.
yeah,
Okay.
what do you,
Like
how
a
What
would
would
you
like
you
a
like to
needs
see happen in
assessment.
your
Right,
community?
right, yeah,
And
just,
just,
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
just have like a needs assessment. survey,
Yeah, yeah, I think that would be good.
So you're okay with that?
because that can cover a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So what's the motion for 22? Is there any?
I don't know.
Just a
that we need
recommendation or
motion.
suggestion or that
So
the
there's no
Demita's
vote.
present us with a
Consensus.
timetable.
Okay,
and
consensus, so there's
consensus.
no motion there for anything. All right, 23, consideration to replace the roof on the Southern Appalachian Labor School building, which is the old elementary school. Right there it is.
Mayor, Dr. John David's been here several times. He's provided us information out of the newspaper. I talked to him, and I said, like I said, John, you came up there and you said $75,000, you thought. I said, I would like to see a bid on that project. So he did provide me with that, and I'll pass this around to each one of you as to what they're saying. The 75 increased to $113,400 and some dollars. But with that said, you know, I'd hate to see that building end up like East End or the building we just talked about where the roof fails. And whether we like it or not, or whether we agree or not, he provides a service to a certain population that otherwise wouldn't get it. So I'd like to see us commit monies contingent upon the county commission submitting monies. That makes one, is that,
When is he supposed to hear a response back from the county commission? I know there were several documents and things that they asked from him.
I don't know that he was given a timeline.
They're meeting Wednesday to consider allocating some of the funds that they're receiving. I know that.
But conceptually, I'd like to see us commit not a dollar amount, contingent upon county commission. And if they commit, then we would review it and look at it at that point.
Well, I agree with you, at least in the first part. I know I do. I don't want to see it go by the way of East End grade school. Secondly, as much as he gets under my skin at times, I admire him for his energy and his focus. Now, he wants everything free. This will be in another one of them, but I'm for trying to keep
Assist.
that situation. I mean, you know, I go to his book sales all the time. I give him $10 here and $5 there. So I'm doing my little share, but yeah, I'm not against helping with the situation, and provided we have it and it's a authorized expenditure, I have no problem.
And two factors, it may be, one, could we use the money? You know, he's indicated did, Charles did. And two, if not, we would build the monies into next year's budget. It would be my idea. You know, we're not, and again, to come back to, if the county commission commits, then we would commit some monies based, not proportionally, not equal to, but make a determination at that time. Just to
I
let him
think I'm-
know.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. My fault.
No, no, go ahead, Ted.
I was just saying, I think I'm good with that too. Is he gonna commit any money to it? Like grant money, is he gonna get funding, put any money to it?
That
Or
could
is
be
it just
a-
gonna be relied upon us and the county commission to pay for it, or?
that could be a third factor. I don't know whether he's
I don't know.
pursuing any
That's what
grant
I was
monies or
wondering.
not.
He has people working up there all the time. I didn't know it could be in kind, it could be in kind money, or just
Well,
working, or.
The reason I wanted to see this is because I was afraid he was gonna try to do it on his own with his workers.
Well.
I have actually followed him going to the county commissions and asking not just that, but I have seen him at the county commissions, and there's several very thorough documents that they have asked him for. So if he meets all of those requirements that they are asking, I can see us allocating some monies to him if he meets their conditions.
Amita, you think if we approach the auditor's office with a specific plan, and I'm not just talking about this, that has infrastructure involved in it, said, this is what we propose to do. Can we get your blessing? Do you think they'll act on those?
They will say, I think that will fit into the whatever,
Category?
but they're
That-
not.
that- Well, I don't want a stamp or anything like that,
Yeah.
but see, when that, Austin was here that night, you know, he talked about this thing, but he admitted, and JB McCuskey has admitted too, that they're still developing the criteria for
They are.
expending these.
They really are.
And I'd like to go to them with a project, perhaps this one, and say, this is what we want to do. And we know that down the road, you may come in and do some spot auditing. We want to know if we're on reasonably firm ground.
Now, I know the training that I went to, they said you can give grants to nonprofits or businesses or whatever you develop, but then you're responsible for making sure they use it according to the guidelines.
Okay.
And the guidelines being the ones that are for ARPA.
Or, yeah. Now, I've mentioned this before, there's a calculation that I have done half of. That's revenue replacement. That money can be used for anything.
Right. You haven't been finished that? yet?
No.
Yeah.
So again, I would move that we approve in principle a contribution to Sal's for roof replacement contingent upon the county commission approving monies with the stipulation that it be contracted and that we be made available the contracted agreement that he would enter into with the replacement of this roof.
I will second your motion.
I would, and I wish I'd said that before you all made a motion. I have a request that I would like for you all to consider. Dr. David has does not allow our code enforcement officer on their property. And there are code violations that exist. I get complaints and is vehement in not allowing code enforcement.
So that could be a
on
second
his
part
property.
of, that could be a second motion.
We can
Can
amend
amend it.
your motion. Yeah. I'll amend David's motion to include, that we have access to any building activities that take place there.
Well, they're outside. They wouldn't even, you know.
How can he stop it?
Hmm?
How can he stop it if
There's
it's within the city?
the most flagrant violation are junk vehicles. Yeah, and it's not, it's not just us observing it, it's, active complaints.
Yeah.
that
How
we're-
could- We do that on other properties. How can he say no?
Well, I don't know, and I think the chief's aware of it. I believe you are. Where, you know, there were threats of trespassing and a lot of other issues.
I think it's gotta be in the motion. We can't
I
change the mo-
support the motion as amended by Mr. Oxley, and I would further ask that this be conveyed in writing to John David.
All right, we have a motion and a second regarding the school at the old elementary school. That school was built 1928 and it closed in 1950 as a high school when they moved down to Collins High School in the fall of 1950. And then it was switched to elementary school. It was an elementary school far longer than it was a high school.
Yeah.
But there's one thing about this building you have to realize too, it is on the National Register now.
Right.
So that makes it a little bit different in terms of just a school. It is now a nationally recognized structure. And Oak Hill has a few, not many. We need a lot more. So here we are. So I think it's a good idea. It does have historic significance. And regarding that, putting a roof on it, when Mr. McCuskey's assistant was here, Councilman Perry asked straight up, can we use any of this money for a roof? Because John David had just been here. And the answer was no. Straight up, no. He didn't even hesitate, no. And then some of you asked other questions and the answer was the same, no, no, no. And then I think Mr. Oxley made the comment that what's left? I mean, what are we going to do? It was all no, everything we asked. But Mr. Perry asked that question and the answer was a straight up no with no hesitation. There was no discussion, no debate, no thinking about it. It was a flat out no. Because John David had just been here and you asked that question. You remember that? You
Yes,
asked him, he
absolutely,
said,
yes.
no, he wasn't, he couldn't do it. So you think there's a way to do it now?
Well, you know, did y'all
Only
attend any
other-
of the,
Only the revenue replacements. Only that.
did y'all attend any of the public hearings at, like at the Urban Bird Center or anything where people from the treasurer's office and Joe Manchin and JB's people and all that were there? It was about an hour and a half long and you came out knowing no more than you did when you went
Right,
in.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not throwing rocks at them. Nobody knows. As we speak, they're sitting there going, well,
Nobody
maybe,
really
you know.
understands.
Well, as I understood, what he said was you could do it, but you may have to repay it.
Yeah, yeah.
But how did Charleston do it? And how did Beckley do it?
I don't know.
And they did it.
I saw what Charleston was doing.
All of
Yeah.
Beckley's is revenue replacement.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Was that how
And
they're doing it?
that's what, and that's the key.
And ours may be, ours may end up being the same.
So I
They
think,
got a good CPA.
but
I
don't
think
know.
Councilman Oxley asked that we at least write McCluskey and ask him, right?
Yeah, if we come up with something. Yeah, let's
But
do
the
it.
motion is to award some monies with stipulations.
Yeah.
And the amount of monies would be determined and where it could come from would be determined at that time.
And also maybe you don't have this part of the motion, but in our thinking process, something similar to what the county might put in.
Right. I don't think we should put as much as they put in. I think they ought to put more.
They got more.
They got more.
Yeah.
But part of this motion that's been made is to require Dr. David to allow the city to come on the property.
Yes.
That was part of the
Clean up his
deal. All right.
property.
All right. We've got the motion and it's been seconded. Is there any more discussion? And hearing none, we'll vote the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to 7-0, which brings us to 24, plans for City Hall. Annabelle.
Okay, and I think this was requested at the end of last meeting under additional future agenda items. So, and I'm not sure who requested it, but
Tom was going to talk to Thresher, if I remember correctly, and see if he would give us a footprint.
They will give us a footprint. The only thing that I didn't know at the time, are we talking about the property out there on Virginia Street?
What I thought,
More than
by the
likely.
police station,
Yeah, somewhere.
that's
in
what I
that
thought we were
neighborhood.
talking
Okay.
about.
Yeah, I think they would do a pro bono workup for us. Bill, I think we talked about, we would determine the square footage, single level, correct?
Right.
That's where we were on that.
Yeah, I think I can get you something by our December meeting on that.
So is there, isn't there's any motion or second for that?
No.
Is
It's
there?
not necessary. I think Tom's good, but
Don't think so. Future agenda items, you can pass those on to the city manager. Anybody? All right. With no other business before the city council of the city of Oak Hill, I hereby declare this meeting adjourned.
June 3rd. Hey, Kristen.
Okay. I got your message.
So for another
Did
time.
you mean to say that today?
Okay. Okay.
I gotta go.